describes him as an ambassador for peace.
The man has become a global icon and done so much for humanity, a total ambassador for freedom and justice in the world. That would be the one takeaway that you could actually have, is that what an extraordinary ambassador for peace.
In other news this morning, former teachers at a Barnfield Federation establishment claim they were made to spoon-feed pupils coursework answers to make sure grade standards were maintained. The Federation denies the allegations. An investigation into the college and the Federation by the Department of Education is ongoing and due to be published later this month. Political reporter Paul Scoynes has more.
The claims come from former teachers at one of the schools taken over by the Barnfield Federation. They say they were told to help pupils rewrite coursework until it was of sufficient standard to achieve at least a C grade. They claim the practice was particularly common in English and maths. The Federation strongly denies this happened at any establishment and refutes these claims.
Two 18-year-olds from Luton are due in court this morning, accused of stabbing another teenager to death. 19-year-old Micah Urquhart died in Hastings Street on September the 13th. Waka Eunice from Queen's Close and Paul Lynham from Midland Road have both been charged with murder. West Hertfordshire Hospitals is among 16 health trusts with higher than expected death rates. The figures come from health statistics firm Dr Foster. Hemel Hempstead and Watford hospitals were found to have higher than expected death rates in 2 of the 4 indicators. A man who failed to keep his dog on a lead in Bedford town centre has been fined more than £300. 55-year-old Peter Taylor from Albert Street was spotted breaking the law on 6 different occasions by CCTV. The weather, a bright and frosty start with a cold wind, a mix of cloud and sunny spells this morning with a high of 4 Celsius. And get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties.
We're coming to towns and villages all across our counties. BBC Three Counties Radio's big tour of beds, hearts and bucks.
When you approach Hitchin down Windmill Hillside, especially in the winter, it's all lit up and it looks beautiful.
All this week in Hitchin.
I think the people are really, really pleasant. Yeah, it's just a nice old market town.
The big tour of beds, hearts and bucks. BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. It's 3 minutes past 6. It's Friday the 6th of December. It's the weekend. Lots coming up on the show today, but the big news of the day, of course, is that Nelson Mandela has died at the age of 94. We'll be getting your reaction and hearing from people living in the 3 counties who's met him over the years. His goddaughter, a fellow political prisoner, and those who welcomed him when he visited Bedford in the year 2000. We'll also be bringing you the latest on the investigation into practices within the Bedfordshire-based Barnfield Federation. We understand the government's looking into various accusations, including grade massaging at its facilities. Paul Scoynes will be here to tell us more. If you want to take part in the show, facebook.com/BBC3CR, or you can send me a text, 81333. Start your text 3CR, or give me a call, 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, the former South African president and anti-apartheid leader Nelson Mandela has died at the age of 95. Current President Zuma says South Africa has lost its greatest son. Well, our reporter Lorna Hankin has been talking to one of Nelson Mandela's goddaughters, Tanya von Ahlefeldt. She lives in Berkhamsted and is the daughter of Jimmy Cantor, a white lawyer who represented Mandela's lawyer, but was accused, who represented Mandela, but was himself accused of crimes in the Rivonia trial in South Africa in 1963.
My father was one of the 10 accused at the Rivonia trial, which is the trial that put Nelson Mandela away for life. He and my mother were expecting me as a baby, and before I'd been born, they were sitting on trial, and the trial went on for a very long period of time. He passed a note down the dock to Nelson Mandela to say, would he be my godfather? Regardless of whether I was a girl or a boy, it would be an honour to have him as a godfather. He then passed a note back down the dock to my father saying the honour would be all his, and then they dare not hang him It was extremely unusual because in those days black and white people didn't even fraternise, let alone ask for something as important as a godparent outside of your race. There was obviously great respect between the two men, and in fact when they went to court they swapped ties. Nelson Mandela turned to my father and said, "This will bring me luck if I have your tie."
Tanya's father was acquitted and fled to England while Mandela was imprisoned. Unfortunately, later Jimmy died and never got to see Mandela freed.
One of the biggest tragedies for me and my family was the fact that my father had actually died in 1974. Having been a very minor part of the struggle, however, a part nonetheless, his biggest wish in life was to actually see Nelson Mandela freed. To try and express that moment when we were all transfixed with the TV to see Nelson Mandela walking free with Winnie Mandela by his side. That was a moment that still to this day, thinking about it, gives me total goosebumps and makes me feel very sad that he never did experience that.
However, Tanya did grow up knowing her father's history, and as an adult was her father's representative at the ANC's 40th anniversary celebration in South Africa.
At the actual ceremony, which was held at the original Rivonia farm that was raided, where they were all arrested, this has now been turned into a very beautiful museum. The one person missing was Nelson Mandela. So we went through the whole ceremony, and right at the end, somebody sort of whispered to us to come over and jump into this car with them. And we were in fact taken to Walter Sisulu's house. Walter Sisulu, who was clearly, one of the accused and one of the very major parts of the movement, had been too ill to go to the ceremony. So Mandela had actually gone to Walter Sisulu's house to watch it on TV with him. I mean, this is the sort of man that he was. I was introduced as Jimmy Cantle's daughter, your goddaughter. Nelson Mandela stood up, walked over to me, bear hugged me and said, "I've waited such a long time to meet you." Of course, completely flustered, I said, "I think it's the other way round." And I was just mesmerised by this man. He was very tall and had the most sparkling eyes I've ever met in my life. A total aura of energy and love and total acceptance. That was the thing that came across most strongly. He was totally accepting of everything, everyone, and where he was now. And so much so that he'd miss one of the biggest ceremonies just to be with his mate and watch it on television. That is the measure of the man.
Looking back on Mandela's life, Tanya says she has very fond memories.
Nelson Mandela's legacy would very much be a legacy that allows people to fight for a cause in a manner that will benefit the masses. The man has become a global icon and done so much for humanity, a total ambassador for freedom and justice in the world. That would be the one takeaway that you could actually have, is that what an extraordinary ambassador for peace.
In a little tent, oh, and just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. And oh, yes it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. And oh, there've been times that I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. With the death of Nelson Mandela, we thought it would be interesting to ask, are there any heroes left out there? Who's yours? 08459 455 555. Nelson Mandela, of course, hero for lots and lots of people. He had a fantastic sense of humour. I was reading Twitter, as one does, and one of the quotes from Nelson Mandela, when he was asked, what was the highlight of your life, he said, meeting the Spice Girls. Now, that is pretty fantastic. So who would you say your heroes are? Are there any left? I'm trying to think. And when I say heroes, I mean proper heroes, not, David Bowie. David Bowie, I mean, he's an adequate singer-songwriter. He's not a proper hero, is he? In the mould of Nelson Mandela. I don't think we don't. I don't know. We don't have anybody in British politics of that ilk. Obama, maybe, although he's been a bit of a damp squib, hasn't he? Really? Remember when he said he was going to pull out of Iran and Iraq and close Guantanamo Bay? Do you remember those things? They're not happened. So he's been a little bit of a disappointment, hasn't he? Or maybe not. 08459 455 555. Are there any heroes remaining? And also, what did Nelson Mandela mean to you? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can also, more and more of you seem to have found out my top secret email address. Maybe it's because I keep saying it on the radio. That could be the giveaway. Iain.lee@bbc.co.uk. IAIN.LEE@bbc.co.uk. But on a day like this, it's nice if we can talk, isn't it? So why don't you pick up the telephone? Most of the lines are free at the moment. 08459 455 555. It's 14 minutes past 6. Let's get the latest travel news now. Here's Alice.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Looking pretty quiet out there at the moment. The speed sensors aren't picking up any major problems on the major routes. West of Aylesbury, though, the A418 Oxford Road is closed between Stone and Dinton for roadworks. Expect delays there, especially at peak times. And in Bearton, Broughton Lane is closed in both directions between Kirkcot Lane and the A41. That has been causing increased traffic on the A41 and A418. I'm Alice Glossop, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Alice. 6:15, Friday, the 6th of December. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Tributes are being paid to Nelson Mandela, who died last night. Former teachers for the Bedfordshire-based Barnfield Federation reveal how pupils were spoon-fed answers to coursework. In cricket, Australia are declared on 570 for 9 on the second day of the second Ashes test in Adelaide. I've got no idea what I just said then, but come on, Barmy Army. The weather today, cold with a mix of cloud and sunny spells this morning and patchy rain this afternoon. Wasn't it blustery yesterday? Now, I know some of you listening to this may have been affected by the storms more than I was. Oh, it was windy. Driving down the M1, my car was getting blown all over the place. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio. Counties Radio's Big Tour. BBC Three Counties Radio's Big Tour.
This afternoon, I'm going to be live in the historic Hertfordshire market town of Hitchin, and I'll meet the woman who founded Hitchin Folk Club over 50 years ago, as well as a local artist who's raised over £10,000 for charity by selling a picture of a stick of rock.
BBC Three Counties Radio's Big Tour.
I'll be based in the Market Square from midday, so pop down and say hello. Today from midday, here on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's been alleged that teachers at the Barnfield Federation education institutions were made to spoon-feed pupils' coursework to get better grades. A BBC Three Counties investigation has found. The subjects include GCSE maths and English. Well, the Bedfordshire-based college and federation is currently being investigated by the Department for Education. Political reporter Paul Scoynes has the story. What's the new allegation?
Well, Ian, we know that the college and the federation is being investigated over these allegations of grade massaging and its operational finances. Well, the Department for Education won't confirm to us what the investigation is about. It only says that it's investigating the college and the federation and taking those allegations seriously. Now, we also understand too that that there have been allegations of bullying of staff made to the DFE by at least one I think also two people who we know who have spoken to the Department for Education's inquiry. So that is the sort of scope of what's happened. The new allegation is that whistleblowers contacted us here at BBC Three Counties Radio after you interviewed Stephen Hall, the Chief Executive of Barnfield, about the investigation last month. It was October, end of October. The ones I've spoken to are former teachers of academies, and I did a long interview with two of them last week. This is an excerpt from one of our interviews with the whistleblowers. What were you expected to do?
Getting students' grades by whatever it takes. Some colleagues felt really uncomfortable with that, in that basically it was demanded, expected to spoon-feed students to get the grades. They would be continually rewriting pieces of coursework, controlled assessment. They'd take the students off timetable for core subjects in particular, and then just spend, a week making sure they rewrote it until they'd achieved those grades. Some of the teachers felt they weren't really teaching. They were saying, you need to put this in, you need to put this in. It really goes against our ethical code as a teacher, and actually you're not doing well by the students either.
Now, that's not the voice of the individual. That's one of the members of staff here at Three Counties who's voiced that. Now, controlled assessment and coursework, they have fairly strict conditions. This is the guidance from one of the exam boards, AQA, on those. It says if students do any work on the actual task prior to the assessment taking place, the teacher must not mark it or comment on it, as this would be seen as drafting and redrafting. There can be no intervention by any member of staff once a controlled assessment session has started. We understand that those courseworks were done in controlled assessment conditions, and the Barnfield Federation tells us it does not recognise the picture being painted by these accusations and strongly refutes these claims.
Also, allegations made by the whistleblowers, we alluded to this yesterday, they couldn't put any of these concerns to the Department for Education.
Yeah, that's right. The investigation team have been in Bedfordshire taking witness statements over a number of days. I've been told by people who've contributed to that process. However, when some of the other people we've spoken to wanted to put these points to the DFE, they found it very difficult.
I did try ringing them, and it was really difficult. The person at the end of the line at the Department for Education sort of said, I don't know who you need to speak to. I felt like I was going round in circles, so I gave up.
What's been the reaction to these claims?
Well, there's been concern from local MPs, and further afield, Ed Miliband told me that he was worried about the allegations that the teachers have made.
Well, I am concerned about the allegations, and of course they've got to be properly looked at, all of the allegations around this chain. And I think it is an illustration of the wider problem that there is, which is that Michael Gove believes that you can run all of Britain's schools, academy schools and free schools, from central government. That's thousands of schools. Actually, what you need is local accountability as well, because that is really, really important for holding schools to account and making sure that we have proper financial management, proper systems, and proper processes in place at all of our schools. That's what our kids deserve, that's what parents have a right to expect, and that's what a Labour government would make sure happens.
teachers who've left the academy chain have come to us and said there's no way of complaining about it. They can't go to the school. They feel that would be very difficult for them to voice those concerns. And when they've gone to the Department for Education, they've been told there's no real whistleblowing process. What would you do about that?
Well, that's what we're deeply concerned about, and we've asked David Blunkett, the former Secretary of State for Education, to look at this issue of local accountability, to make sure that schools right across the board, whether they're academies or free schools, or of course community schools, can be properly held to account, so that actually the right standards are upheld, the right processes are upheld, and parents, most importantly, can have confidence about what's happening at schools, and teachers also. So I think this is a demonstration of the fact that we do need to change the system, that the government isn't getting it right, and we would make changes, and that's what we're looking at the moment.
Now, Michael, that was Ed Miliband, of course. Michael Gove, the Education Secretary, has been responding to some of these complaints as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, speaking to us in Suffolk recently, he denied the academy system didn't have the right amount of oversight. But, you know, we haven't, as I said, seen what the department have said, only that short statement. But this is what he said to Look East.
I think our system is working. At the moment, we're investigating some allegations that have been made about a variety of things that happened at Barnfield. Until that investigation concludes, I don't think I can comment on it. It wouldn't be fair to any of the people involved. One of the things that we have found, though, is that when other complaints have been made about things that have been going wrong in other schools, the department and its agencies have been as quick to investigate them, if not quicker, than other local authorities. But obviously, if there are people who feel that their attempt to blow the whistle or to register complaints haven't been handled properly, then A, I'm concerned about it, and B, I want to make sure that they get a proper answer.
This investigation is due to be concluded soon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's due to take between 4 to 6 weeks. That was at the outset of it. So that would make it at any day now. And we understand the DfE has completed the interviewing, though we know that some teachers have struggled to contact the DfE, as we've said. I've been told by sources yesterday to expect it in about 10 days or so, but really nobody knows.
And just to clarify, of course, Barnfield denies any wrongdoing, don't they?
Yes, they've always said that the investigations relate to the past. Remember earlier this week, though, that Sir Peter Burkitt, who founded the Federation in 2007, resigned from his role at an international school chain, saying that in order that this issue does not become an undue distraction from my colleagues and the work of GEMS Education, I've decided to resign from my position. He told us too, when he moved on from Barnfield as Director General of the whole Barnfield Federation, the interim results were the highest ever. There were healthy financial reserves, and the staffing reshaping of the college would place the organisation in a solid position moving forward. He left the Federation in February this year. Now, Barnfield didn't want to be interviewed by the BBC before the publication of the report. They have said that they would talk to us after the publication of the report. In a statement, the Federation said, Barnfield Federation does not recognise the picture being painted by these accusations and strongly refutes these claims. Our students are our lifeblood and follow a personalised learning programme suited to their individual needs and aimed at developing rounded young people who will reach their potential, prepared for the world of work. The current investigation is not about educational standards. It's about operational issues, and any lessons about how things were done in the past will be learned, implemented and adhered to. We are already in the process of making sure that Barnfield is fit for the future and not held back by the past.
Paul Scoins, thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555.
All my bags are packed, I'm ready to go. I'm standing here outside your door. I hate to wake you up to say goodbye, but the dawn is breaking, it's early morn. The taxi's waiting, he's blown his horn. Already I'm so lonesome I could die. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh babe, I hate to go. There's so many times I've let you down. So many times I played around. I tell you now, they don't mean a thing. Every place I go, I'll think of you. Every song I sing, I'll sing for you. When I come back, I'll bring your wedding ring. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. Now the time has come to leave you. One more time, let me kiss you. Then close your eyes and I'll be on my way. Dream about the days to come when I won't have to leave alone. About the times I won't have to say. Kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go.
08459 455 555 is the telephone number this morning. With Nelson Mandela gone, we're asking, are there any more heroes left? Paul says Dennis Skinner is a hero. Best attendance record every year in the Commons, stuck to his beliefs, even under New Labour, a real man of the people. Well, Paul Scoynes, a current political reporter, is here. Would you class Dennis Skinner as a hero, Paul Scoynes?
He's an iconic MP, that's for sure. I mean, he is that sort of slightly cantankerous man who sort of will shout at leader of the opposition, the Prime Minister, without any kind of qualms.
Just say yesterday, when George Osborne was doing his budget, did the politicians realise...
Autumn statement.
That's why he's the current political reporter. The next one wouldn't correct me on air. He'd give me a rollicking upstairs in the office for no particular reason. Do the politicians not realise that they sound like idiots?
Yes.
What is that all about? If you did that in a school assembly or in a debating class at college, you get kicked out immediately.
The barracking is pretty intense. I went to Parliament a couple of months ago and I was given the tour by one of our political correspondents.
Oh, I bet that was great.
It was really interesting.
Yeah.
You go into the chamber and you hear all that stuff and you see them and they're sitting very close to one another. It's very small.
Is it like all TV sets? It's when you get there, it's smaller than it looks on TV?
It really is.
Wow.
And they are literally probably out as far as we are from each other. It's about 4 or 5 metres.
Yeah.
And, well, we're closer than that. But, it is really, really close. And you do see them pointing right in their faces. It's very adversarial.
I just think it's just so ridiculous yesterday. The man's doing a very important speech.
It's a bit of theatre, isn't it, really?
Speaking of theatre, that's what this show's all about, and magical it is, magical it was. Let's get the travel.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Things starting to pick up a little now on the sensors. Harpenden is looking slow in both directions on Luton Road. Also past Dunstable, the southbound A5 is struggling a little. public transport, First Capital Connect are running a reduced service today on the Hertford Loop line. That's before 10 o'clock this morning. Because of weather conditions, tickets are being accepted on Greater Anglia and London Underground, though. I'm Alice Glossop, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 6:30. I'm Jane Killick. South Africans and millions of people around the world are mourning the death of Nelson Mandela. He died at his home in Johannesburg last night at the age of 95. David Cameron said a great light had gone out in the world. President Obama described him as influential, courageous and profoundly good. In other news this morning, former teachers at a Barnfield Federation establishment claim they were made to spoon-feed pupils' coursework answers to make sure grade standards were maintained. The Bedfordshire-based federation denies the allegations. The weather, mostly cloudy with sunny spells this morning, some patchy rain this afternoon, with temperatures up to 4 Celsius. On to sport, and in cricket, England are facing another uphill battle to stay in the second Ashes Test in Adelaide. On day 2, Australia's batsmen have again dominated, as Mark Bukach reports.
Been a very chastening day this for England. Australia declared 570 for 9. Michael Clarke, a magnificent 148, his 26th Test century. Brad Haddin, 118. They put on 200 for the 6th wicket. The number 10, Ryan Harris, enjoyed himself. 55 not out at a runner ball. They hit 12 sixes, the Australian, a record for an innings. You're getting the picture. Very hard work for England. Ben Stokes, the real plus, 2 for 70 off 18 overs.
On to football. Watford could have more players back from injury for tomorrow's championship trip to Leeds. Defender Akichi Anya could feature and midfielder Almin Abdi is close to return. The Hornets secured a draw at Burnley on Tuesday night after back-to-back home defeats. Manager Gianfranco Zola thinks his side still has more to give.
What is important that we learn a lot from the game we played the other day and take everything that we did there to the next game. But I'm sure something more will come because I believe that my team hasn't given, even the other day, considering it was a good game, he hasn't given everything he can give.
Luton Town will be without injured centre-back Alex Lacey for the conference trip to Alfreton tomorrow. It could mean a league debut for one of the loan signings made by manager John Still last week. BBC Three Counties News and Sport. I'll be back with a full bulletin at 7.
On FM, AM, online and digital radio.
This is Iain.
Morning.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
So, Nelson Mandela's died. No great surprise. We knew it was coming. We were expecting it. But we're asking, are there any heroes left? Are there any left? I mean, he wasn't he the last sort of great hero in the world? 08459 455 555 is the phone number. You can send a text 81333. Start your text 3CR. And if you just want to give us a call as well and let us know what Nelson Mandela meant to you, you're more than welcome to.
I am not in love, but I'm open to persuasion. East or west, where's the best for romancing with a friend? I can smile, but with a lover I could hold my head back and really laugh, really laugh. Thank you. You took me dancing across the floor, cheek to cheek, but with a lover I could really move, really move. I could really dance, really dance, really dance, really dance. I could really move, really move, really move, really move. Now if I can feel the sun in my eyes and the rain on my face, why can't I?
I may need my home, but I should just stick to those that I have got. With friends I still feel so insecure. Little darling, I believe you can help me a lot. Just take my hand and lead me where you will. No conversation, no way, good night.
We'll give you love.
Just make love with affection. Sing me another love song, but this time with a little dedication. Sing it, sing it, sing it, sing it. You know that's what I like. Love, ooh. Once more with the feeling. Give me love, give me love, give me love. Love, love. Make love with affection. Sing me another love song, but this time with a little dedication. Sing it, sing it, sing it, sing it. You know that's what I like. Love, once more with a feeling. Sing me another love song, but this time with a little dedication. Sing it, sing it, sing it, sing it. You know that's what I like. Love, with affection, with a little dedication. Love, once more with a feeling. You know that's what I like. Love,
Just talking about some of the former cast members of Emmerdale Farm for various reasons. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Catherine Boyle is over there.
Good morning.
Now, we're looking through the papers. Now, we're in the unusual situation in that we've been delivered two sets of newspapers.
Yeah.
The first sets of newspapers were about 40 minutes late, and they had very little mention of Nelson Mandela, and we had a note from the newsagent saying, some more papers are coming soon, you will be charged for both sets. And you've just brought in the second set of newspapers, which I've not seen yet.
Yep.
And these have all got Nelson Mandela on the front page.
Gosh, there were some really wonderful pictures and great quotes on the front. The Independent: to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others.
There was a screening last night of the premiere of the film about Nelson Mandela, based on his book, and the Duke and... Who is it? What do we call them these days?
The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. Yes.
Is he a Duke?
Yes.
OK. They were there.
Yeah, as I went to bed, that was what was on the online newspapers.
They were there, and various other people. And at the end of the film, sort of halfway through the film, members of Nelson Mandela's family were ushered out. And I would imagine one or two people had their phones on and they would have got news. But at the end of the film, the actor and the director came out and said, oh, well, I hope you enjoyed the film. By the way, we've just heard that Nelson Mandela's died. It's not a direct quote, but how surreal would that be? Anyway, I was listening to 5 Live on the way in, and they interviewed a woman as she came out from that screening, and they said, so was it a shock that he died? Well, yeah, of course it was. We were watching the film, and then we're told that he's died. Of course it's a shock. Strange thing to ask. I'm sure that film will... it sounds cynical, but do very good business now on the result of this, won't it?
Well, I think there are a lot of people out there, and they'll be listening now, who think, you know what, I don't know enough about Nelson Mandela, actually.
Yep.
It's sort of thing, everyone nods sagely when his name is mentioned, and they all know he's a positive figure. But really, a lot of the background has gone a lot over people's heads over the years, I think.
08459 455 555, if you want to give us your thoughts on that. There's relatively little, and we've not had much time to look at these newspapers, there's relatively little else in the newspapers. I've found a couple of bits and pieces. He said, frantically flicking through the papers to try and find the pages that he'd folded over. Where on earth are they? I just had them, for goodness sakes. Hang on. Calm down. Don't panic, Mr. Mannering. Don't panic. No, not there. No, not there. Nope, not there. Nope, not there. Nope, not there. Nope, not
This
there.
is fascinating
Hang on.
radio, isn't it?
Nope, not there. Nope, not there. Nope, not there. Nope, not there. Ah, here. Got it. Christmas repeats on Christmas. The Daily Mail, as the Daily Express was yesterday, is furious. There are repeats on Christmas. That's what Christmas is all about, isn't it? Is repeats. You want a couple of good movies. You want someone to get killed in EastEnders or Danny Dyer to appear, thereby killing the entire series. And you want loads of repeats. So Christmas Day. What have we got on Christmas Day? Oh, it doesn't even have Christmas. Oh, here we go. Christmas Day. There's not that many repeats on Christmas Day. Oh, no, they've got good stuff on Christmas Day.
Have they really?
Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1.
Yeah.
I've never seen the Harry Potter film. Oh, God, no, actually, they've got terrible stuff. On Monday the 23rd of December, BBC Two, Jane Eyre film.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, for goodness sakes. Christmas Day, Channel 4, Bears Wild Weekend with Stephen Fry, or Heston's Great British Food, Puddings. Oh, for goodness.
Because we won't have enough food over that.
Load of our rubbish. Christmas repeats, December the 23rd. BBC One, Fools and Horses, yeah, of course.
Oh.
Christmas Carol, yeah, it's a classic. Toy Story 2, come on, it's brilliant. Vicar of Dibley, my wife likes the last 30 seconds of that. Indiana Jones, yeah, whatever. Two Ronnies, Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, Dad's Army, this is all classic.
Morecambe and Wise?
It'll be on there somewhere, of course it will. These are all classic. They're complaining that the Snowman is being repeated on Christmas Day at 1:40.
Hang on, there's a limited period in which you can play the Snowman.
Where are your hearts?
Is there going to be a new Christmas cartoon? You know, last year we had Room on the Broom, the year before Gruffalo's Child.
Yeah.
I love those cartoons.
Yeah, I do like a good Christmas cartoon. What have you got?
Well, there's...
you've got that?
I don't want to look at that. Steve Davis with a palm leaf over his...
It's a palm leaf over his privates, not just a palm. That would be a photo. Wouldn't it? Hey, if you want to make... do you want to make some new friends?
Always.
OK. Well, buy yourself a dog.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Want to make 3 new friends? Buy yourself a dog, says the Mail. As a man's best friend, it should come as no surprise. Dogs, it seems, really are good for friendship, with owning one adding an average of 3 chums to your social circle.
That's true, it's like children.
Yeah, the problem is, though, you're only going to become friends with the kind of people that own dogs, other dog owners. I don't want to be friends with those losers.
Have you ever met friends through your children? I mean, just randoms.
My wife has, yeah.
So I told you about my new friend I met in the post office.
Oh, yeah?
We're good friends now. We see each other every week.
You got a Spanish friend?
Yeah. She's from Chile.
But she's using you, you're using her?
No, we're not using each other. We're having fun times.
You're just using her to practice your Spanish?
Well, it's an added benefit, but I think everyone has friends.
My wife has made friends.
Added benefits, don't they?
No. My wife has made friends through my children, and I've really not got much time.
You're not keen?
I'm not keen on people.
Well, I know that. You're very picky.
Pesticides are blamed as the turtle dove faces extinction in 10 years. Bye-bye, turtle dove. I mean, we hear about all these...
I wouldn't recognise one. What do they look like?
It looks like that.
Oh.
We hear about all these animals that are becoming extinct. Did you know, this is a fact, 99% of all animals or creatures that have ever existed are extinct? So the polar bears, the turtle doves, the monkey... Who cares?
No, the monkeys are still pretty much out there, I think.
3 of them are. They are... Who cares about these things, really? Really? I think we have to accept that, if we just got rid of all animals, then the world would be a better place.
No, I like animals. They add an element of mayhem.
That's children you're thinking of.
Well, they both do, but animals never grow up.
OK. 08459 455 555. That's it, we're finished.
Oh.
Well, no, don't sound disappointed you didn't get to do a story. You just sat there flicking away.
Well, because...
All right, go on. You can find a story before we go.
Diving star Tom Daly's head over heels. I mean, that's not news, is it?
We know he's gay. We know he's in love with a fella.
He's doing some diving and he's with a fellow.
Alice, I will be with you in a second. We're just waiting for Catherine to find a story. Is that OK?
Katie Hopkins.
That's absolutely fine.
Thank you very much, Alice. Very patient.
Katie Hopkins is saying, isn't it great Nigella's not so perfect after all?
It's fine,
It's not news, is it? It's not.
Alice Glossop is waiting. Sorry, Alice.
Paramedics dashed to the home of Man United star Shinji Kagawa when he was stricken by breathing problems after the champions lost to Everton.
There's no such man. I'm going to put you I'm going to put you out of your misery, Catherine. This isn't working. It's a little bit uncomfortable. Alice is embarrassed.
The world's first underground cricket match has taken place between village sides in a slate mined floodlit cavern 2,000 feet below Fleet.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Looking on speed sensors in Beaconsfield, Amersham Road southbound at the roundabout with the A40 is struggling a little bit. The M25 starting to build up anti-clockwise between 26 for Waltham Abbey and 25 for Enfield through the roadworks. Public transport, First Capital Connect have a reduced service this morning on the Hertford Loop line before 10 a.m. That's because of the weather conditions. Tickets are going to be accepted on Greater Anglia and London Underground though. I'm Alice Glossop, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Alice. Right, 6:46. It's Friday, the 6th of December. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Tributes are being paid to Nelson Mandela, who died last night. Former teachers for the Bedfordshire-based Barnfield Federation reveal how pupils were spoon-fed answers to coursework. In cricket, a few moments ago, England were on 13-1 on the second day of the second test in Adelaide. Give us a call. What did Nelson Mandela mean to you? How will you remember him? And who are your heroes? Are there any living heroes left? 08459 455 555. We'll take your calls after we get the latest weather from Elizabeth Rizzini.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Today's going to be a much calmer day. We've still got that northwesterly wind, but it's a lot lighter than it was yesterday. Expected to stay that way too. Now, we do have some showers feeding down through the Cheshire Gap, actually, but I expect most of them to have died away by the time they get to us, but still perhaps the risk of some showers across northern areas of Bedfordshire in particular, perhaps some places in Hertfordshire as well, just the risk of them. I think most places are going to stay dry for the rest of the day today. There'll be variable amounts of cloud, but also some brightness and some spells of sunshine, but we're into much cooler air now, so temperatures aren't going to get very far at all, probably only to between 4, possibly as high as 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, 43 in Fahrenheit. It is going to feel cooler. So as we head into this evening and overnight, things will cloud over. We may just see a few more showery outbreaks of rain at times. Many places dry though. Because of the cloud cover, not quite as chilly tonight, so temperatures dropping to around 2 or 3 degrees, I think, in many of the towns, perhaps just a touch of rural frost with the light winds. And then into the weekend, we've got some milder air coming our way, so it is going to feel a touch nicer. There'll be some brightness around on Saturday, perhaps even some spells of sunshine. Temperatures up to 8 or 9 degrees for the most part. A cloudier day on Sunday, but dry all weekend, and really quite settled too into next week. That's the forecast, Iain.
Every consumer problem has an unhappy customer.
They've actually deleted the main account instead of attaching my one to it.
We ordered it, and when we got home we checked the measurements and it just will not fit.
A company.
We've asked the council, now they come up with a new excuse. It's not them, it's down to the highways. And he said, well, I'm sorry, that's your policy. Oh, well, maybe next time you'll learn not to open the box.
And me getting to the bottom of it all.
And they confirmed that they would return my excess and that my no claims bonus would not be affected.
The JVS show fights for your rights and tackles your consumer problems. Weekdays from 9, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, BBC Introducing is a show here on the Three Counties. Why should I talk about it when Kelly Betts works on it and could talk a whole lot better about it? Kelly Betts.
Hi.
Hi, tell us about BBC Introducing.
BBC Introducing is dedicated to the unsigned and upcoming musicians of Beds, Herts and Bucks. And we have a show every Saturday evening from 8 that supports them and shows off their talent. And
their musical talent.
Their musical talent.
In case there's any confusion there.
And each week we pick a track and we add it to the Three Counties playlist so that everybody else can hear the sort of stuff what they can hear on a Saturday, but spread across the week,
Kelly, why are you pulling the face, Catherine?
The sort of stuff what you can hear.
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry about that. It's early, isn't it? Still,
considering the stuff that's been falling out of her mouth this morning, she's so lucky she's got an open microphone and I'm hovering over this fader. So who have we got this week? I heard this. I heard Roberto playing this the other day.
Did you like it?
I heard Roberto playing this the other week.
I really like it. It's by Sean Grant and the Wolfgang from Milton Keynes, and this is their new single called I Am the Devil.
It was down in central Kilburn where there was born a child, a boy not unfamiliar to be rough to mild, eyes as innocent she'd missed. She was a bipolar monster who liked to use a fist. If God made the church, the devil made us. So the ideals are just a modern day curse. I am the devil, she said I was a devil, you know. Individuals stuck in a system that they never understood. 'Cause nobody ever explained to them the will beneath them up for good. If God made the church, then the devil made us. If God made this church.
That was I Am the Devil by Sean Grant and the Wolfgang. They're from Milton Keynes. Kelly, if I wanted to go and see them, I don't know, maybe this weekend, which I can't because I'm busy. Where could I see them?
Funnily enough, they are launching their new single, at the Crawford Arms in Milton Keynes, this coming Saturday.
I am busy then, but I wish them the very best of luck. Thank you very much, Kelly Betts. Sorry. Susan Swan from Dunstable has emailed in. Is this a genuine email, Catherine, or is this one of the ones you do?
It certainly is. It's a genuine email from someone who obviously has a soul.
Why don't you read it out?
Well, no, I think it would be rather immodest of me to do so.
Hi, Iain. Think you were out of order this morning with Catherine. It's spelt with a K.
With a C.
She spelled it with a C.
Well, I know.
You spell it with a K.
Never mind.
So,
Potato, potato.
Facebook is full of pictures of the sunrise this morning and how fabulous it was. What? I got to work with loads off people saying, did you see the sky this morning? You are such a cynic. I think you owe her a huge apology. Susan Swan from Dunstable. What on earth is this woman blathering on about?
Well, she's right about the apology for numerous infractions.
But what is she talking about? Sunrise?
Spectacular skies. I think she's missed what I was talking about, which was the fireball.
You claim you saw a fireball, and I'm saying the inverted commas and italics in my head.
It was a meteor. I think we had that confirmed.
You are basically, you're being supported by people who haven't got a clue what they're supporting you for.
Is that wrong?
If anything, both you, Catherine, and you, Susan Swan, owe me an apology.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. 08459 455 555. Well, as you know, Nelson Mandela passed away last night. I think it was about 10 to 9, at the age of 95. We can now hear a montage of Nelson Mandela talking about his own life in his own words.
The fellow who acted with me used to say to me, leave Walter Sisulu alone. You will spend the rest of your life in jail if you associate with him. And that's what happened. But I didn't listen to him because I was now fired up, man, that this is the role that I should play.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people. I want to say that the suggestion made by the state in its opening that the struggle in South Africa is under the influence of foreigners or communists is wholly incorrect. I have done whatever I did, both as an individual and as a leader of my people. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons will live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an idea for which I hope to live for. But my Lord,
if it needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
When we were sent to jail, we had the feeling that we had been victorious and that the people who actually were the accused were the government itself. And that kept us very much alive. And then when we noticed that the ideas for which we had committed our lives were still very much alive, even though we're in jail, we also got a lot of strength as a result.
One day you'll look to see I've gone, for tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. Someday you'll know I was the one, but tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. And now the time has come, and so my love I must go. And though I lose a friend, in the end you will know. Oh, one day you'll find that I have gone, but tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. Tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. And now the time has come, and so my love I must go. And though I lose a friend, in the end you will know. Oh, one day you'll find that I have gone, but tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
In Watford, the A414 busy around Upton Road, and the M25 going anti-clockwise is heavy at the junction 16 for the M40. Public transport, First Capital Connect have disruption between Finsbury Park and Welwyn Garden City. We've got reports that's because of a tree on the line. There's also a reduced service this morning on the Hertford Loop. I'm Alice Glossop, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give me a call. What are you after? Tea bags? OK, I can do that. I tell you, let me sort of...
Local and vocal across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 7 o'clock. I'm Jane Killick. The headlines: Nelson Mandela has died at the age of 95. Former teachers at Barnfield Federation speak out, and 2 teenagers due in court over Luton murder.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
South Africa's first black president, Nelson Mandela, has died. He was 95. Mr Mandela passed away peacefully at his home in Johannesburg, where he was being treated for the recurrence of a lung infection. The South African president, Jacob Zuma, said the nation had lost its greatest son and its people had lost their father. Crowds have gathered on the streets outside Mr Mandela's home in Johannesburg, from where our correspondent, Milton Ngosi, reports.
The crowds have come in their numbers to pay tribute to their leader, Nelson Mandela. That is where Mr. Mandela passed away peacefully, as President Jacob Zuma said. But the ANC supporters are here singing liberation songs. They're singing songs about Nelson Mandela. One of the songs that they've been singing all night is Nelson Mandela, There Is No One Like You.
Mandela's goddaughter, Tanya von Alderfelt, lives in Berkhamsted. Her father stood trial with Nelson Mandela when her mother was pregnant. She recalls meeting him in 2001.
I was just mesmerised by this man. He was very tall and had
the most sparkling eyes I've ever met in my life. A total aura of energy and love and total acceptance. That was the thing that came across most strongly.
In other news this morning, former teachers at a Barnfield Federation establishment claim they were made to spoon-feed pupils' coursework answers to make sure grade standards were maintained. The Bedfordshire-based federation denies the allegations. An investigation into the college and the federation by the Department for Education is ongoing and due to be published later this month. Our political reporter Paul Scoynes has more.
The claims come from former teachers at one of the schools taken over by the Barnfield Federation. They say they were told to help pupils rewrite coursework until it was of sufficient standard to achieve at least a C grade. They claim the practice was particularly common in English and maths. The Federation strongly denies this happened at any establishment and refutes these claims.
2 18-year-olds from Luton are due in court this morning, accused of stabbing another teenager to death. 19-year-old Micah Urquhart died in Hastings Street on September the 13th. Raka Younis from Queen's Close and Paul Lynham from Midland Road have both been charged with murder. A woman's been taken to hospital after a fire on her narrowboat in Hertfordshire. Firefighters were called to the canal at Bulbourne near Tring at 1:45 this morning. The woman was suffering from the effects of breathing in smoke. In cricket, a few moments ago, England were on 27 for 1 on the second day of the second Ashes Test in Adelaide. Alistair Cook was bowled out for 3. Earlier, Australia declared on 570 for 9. The weather, a bright and frosty start with a cold wind, a mix of cloud and sunny spells this morning with a high of 4 Celsius. And get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties.
BBC Three Counties Radio's big tour of beds, hearts and bucks.
If you want to change from the same old high street chains, fancy something a bit different, then definitely come to Hitchin.
All this week in Hitchin.
It's a community, and that's something that we were not used to.
It's just a really diverse place to live.
The big tour of beds, hearts and bucks. All this week in Hitchin. BBC Three Counties Radio.
This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Lots to talk about this morning, although, of course, the main story is the passing of Nelson Mandela. We'll be finding out from various people who knew the man what impact he had, but also your memories as well. 08459 455 555. And we're also asking, are there any heroes left? We'll also be bringing you the latest on the investigation into practices within the Bedfordshire-based Barnfield Federation. We understand that the government's looking into various accusations, including grade massaging at its facilities. If you want to take part in the show, facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can send me a text, 81333, start your text 3CR, or you can give me a call, 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Steve's in Luton. Morning, Steve.
Morning, Ian.
Steve, what would you like to say?
I'd like to say two things, really. One, I love you in a non-gay way. But regarding Mr. Mandela...
Yes, I always like it when someone says Mr. That means they're about to insult them. Yes, go on.
Not necessarily. I'm just under the impression that he was a convicted terrorist.
Right.
So, should we really be celebrating convicted terrorists?
But he was convicted. But who convicted him?
No, you can tell me.
Well, a racist organisation, a racist government that was built on apartheid.
So he was innocent, was he?
No, I'm not saying that for a second. But what I'm saying is that there are people that had a reason to keep him in prison.
Yeah, I know, but maybe he was in prison because he committed a crime.
Yeah, but do you not agree that the apartheid situation in South Africa was appalling?
I certainly do.
Right. Do you not? Would you not think then that the people in power would have a reason? His crimes to one side would have a reason to keep him in prison for an extended period of time and sully his name.
Yes, I agree.
Do you not think that the things he achieved once he came out of prison were remarkable?
Yes, I do.
That's who we're celebrating.
I still think when you've got a past that wasn't quite squeaky clean, that it's a bit more uncomfortable to celebrate someone.
He freed millions of people. He was the figurehead responsible for the destruction of the awful apartheid system, an apartheid system that happened within my living memory that my government supported. He's responsible for breaking that down and creating huge, huge changes. You don't think that that's worth acknowledging and celebrating?
I think it is a little.
A little?
But to call him a hero...
A little,
I think
Steve.
Pushing it a little bit,
Steve. But the thing is, you've not lived under a racist regime where you are your nose is pushed into the ground and your family members are killed and beaten for no reason, have you? He helped with other people. He helped in some way go towards rescuing those people.
Yeah, he's done some great things. But before he did the great things, he obviously clearly did some things that I'm sure most people would be ashamed about.
OK, Steve.
They certainly should be.
Thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555. Well, we can find out more about that now. We can speak to Paul Truella, who is a South African journalist and a political activist who lives in Aylesbury. Morning, Paul.
Hello, hi.
Paul, when you hear comments like that from Steve, and there have been a few, I know that Twitter is not the most friendliest of places, as Guy said. Let's address the Nelson Mandela as a terrorist issue.
Right. He was convicted of having played a leadership role in forming an underground military organization which initiated what were military actions not directed at people, but which later did develop into warfare-type conditions against the minority regime of white people that had dictatorial power in South Africa. Now, the English Civil War involved a war of parliament against the king of this country, which led finally to the execution of that king. Yet it is a matter that is regarded as one of the founding events in parliamentary democracy in this country. In the same way, the United States involved a war against the governing power, that was the governing power of this country, and that is highly celebrated in the United States. In France, a revolution took place which established the current republic. That too is celebrated in France. There are periods in the life of societies in which a dominating ruling power becomes so entrenched and so unable to reform itself or be reformed by the people, when it preserves itself through a reign of violence, when the decision is taken that only a war can overthrow it. A civil war of that kind is a horrible event in the life of any country, leading to the death of many people. But that decision has been taken in many nations in different periods of time. It was taken in South Africa, and Nelson Mandela was one of the prime people who took that decision. And he is hugely respected in his own country for having done so.
Another thing that, Nelson Mandela is famous for, of course, is his forgiveness, isn't it, of those people that did perpetrate that regime?
That is quite true. Having spent over 25 years in prison, he came out of prison, and even before coming out of prison, in negotiations with the government, prepared a transition that very few people had actually thought was going to be possible, and that was a relatively peaceful transition towards non-racial government, parliamentary elections on the basis of universal franchise, and the possibility of South Africa becoming a parliamentary democracy with free civil conditions in the same way that Britain is. And that was an extraordinary act of moral leadership. But it was not only in relation to the white apartheid regime that he took this route of reconciliation. In its conflict with the apartheid regime, which it conducted in exile after it had been banned in South Africa following the massacre of nearly 70 black people who were shot by police with automatic weapons in a place called Sharpeville in March 1960. When the ANC set up its military wing in exile and conducted warfare-type operations against the South African government of various kinds, it had a very top-down structure. In 1984, a large number of young soldiers in the ANC army, then based in Angola, where there was a civil war going on involving Cuban troops and the South African army, they felt that the ANC structures were top-down and undemocratic. There was what has been called a mutiny in that army in a base outside the Angolan capital, Luanda, in February 1984, and a significant number of people who had participated in that were then put in an awful prison camp run by the ANC in northern Angola called Quatro. When the apartheid government unbanned the ANC and allowed the exiles to return, one of the people who had been imprisoned in that camp came here to Britain. I was one of a small number of people, together with my great friend Bill McElroy, a former Labour Party councillor in Westminster, who helped somebody who had written a memoir of what had happened, a man called Amos Makongo, to come to this country. He confronted Nelson Mandela at a public meeting at the Commonwealth Institute in London in 1991 with what had happened. Mandela took a unique step at that meeting, because after the meeting, he asked that young man to come and speak to him, and they spoke in their own first language, which is isiXhosa. And Mandela found out for himself what had happened in exile, and from that, he took the step, along with others, but he was the most important person who took that step of opening up a process of inquiry, commissions of inquiry, leading to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which presented its final report in 1998. And that commission took the unique step of permitting a very high degree of disclosure of brutal human rights abuses which had taken place both by the apartheid regime but also by the ANC itself. Now, that was an extraordinary moral act, and that has set an example which is available in South Africa for the future and is available also to other countries.
Paul, we have to end it there just because we're out of time, but I could talk to you all morning. Absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much indeed. Paul Truella, South African journalist, political activist, who lives in Aylesbury. 08459 455 555 is the phone number. Your thoughts and your memories on Nelson Mandela. And also, are there any more living heroes? BBC Three Counties Radio. Let's get the travel now with Alice.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
In Brent Cross, the A406 heading west, the entry slip road is partially blocked at Staples Corner after a car has broken down. In Bricketwood, the North Orbital is heavy at the M25 Junction 21A roundabout, and the M25 anti-clockwise looking busy around the M40 junction. On public transport, First Capital Connect have disruption on services via Welwyn Garden City and both Moorgate and King's Cross because of a tree on the line. There's also a reduced service running on the Hertford Loop before 10 a.m. this morning because of weather conditions. I'm Alice Glossop, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Alice, thanks very much. Right, 7:16. It's Friday the 6th of December. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Tributes are being paid to Nelson Mandela, who died last night. Former teachers for the Bedfordshire-based Barnfield Federation reveal how pupils were spoon-fed answers to coursework. In England, cricket, a few moments ago, England were 33 for 1 in reply to Australia's 570 for 9 in the second test in Adelaide. The weather, cold with a mix of cloud and sunny spells this morning and patchy rain this afternoon.
BBC Three Counties Radio. BBC Three Counties Radio's Big Tour. Coming to towns and villages across Beds, Herts and Bucks.
When you approach Hitchin, it's all lit up and it looks beautiful.
It's a huge trip celebrating all that's amazing about where we live.
Everybody seems to be happy to be here.
Standing here looking at the beautiful church, what more do you want?
All this week in Hitchin.
It's a very friendly place, everyone seems to know each other.
There's a lot that are unique to Hitchin, so it's worth coming.
BBC Three Counties Radio's Big Tour of Beds, Herts and Bucks. All this week in Hitchin.
If you want to change from the same old high street chains, then definitely come to Hitchin.
Local and vocal. BBC Three Counties Radio.
08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. Lucy's in Dunstable. Morning, Lucy.
Good morning, Ian. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. I believe you have a personal connection with Nelson Mandela. What was that?
Not really personal, but I'm South African.
I picked that up from the accent.
Exactly.
Yes.
Stephen, what was he saying about the word terrorist?
Well, yes, we had the caller at the top of the hour said that he thought it was odd that we were celebrating what he called a terrorist.
If you would ask me, being a South African, growing up without a granddad who's sitting in Robben Island with Nelson Mandela, it was a stress. Having uncles who were out of the country in exile, it was stressful. So we as South Africans, we have suffered in silence when the whole world was watching. The Boers killing people. What is he talking about? Because that was Margaret Thatcher. Remember saying the terrorist Nelson Mandela. And yes, she apologized years later, but it didn't make difference to some of us. It didn't, Ian. Today, the sun of Africa has fallen. And unfortunately, none of the people are following his footsteps.
There's a couple of things you mentioned there, Lucy. Let's just go back quickly if we can. So your grandfather was in prison on Robben Island with Nelson Mandela?
Yes, and few other more 170-something people who were there. He's one of the heroes who's still alive. He's still alive. He's 97 years of age.
And how long was your granddad on Robben Island for?
He was there in 1969 until 1994.
Wow. What was it like when he came out?
It was beautiful. It was beautiful, Ian. South Africa, I remember the day they mentioned that they are coming out. We heard it from the radio in the morning coming from school. No, in the morning going to school. We never went to school that day. We were celebrating because of that evening. It was a party in South Africa. We couldn't believe it. Our parents couldn't believe they will see the day, especially people who died in Alexander, the women who died for their rights, people who died asking to vote for South Africa. But there was nothing. The whole world was watching. The whole world was saying we were terrorists. But only few men stood and put everything down for the sake of their country. And how many people do that? Without a war. We didn't have guns. We had a stone and a shield. And that's all our uncles and our brothers knew how to defend a bullet. He needs to go back and look at 1976. He needs to go back and read history or look at history and see how many people have suffered through the apartheid regime.
How old were you, Lucy, when your grandfather was released?
I was born in 1976. My mathematics is killing me.
So 93, so hang on, you was...
1976,
yep.
And it was 1990 when he... 1990.
So you're about 14?
Yeah, I was already 14.
And what was it like? Obviously, you'd never met him. What was it like the first time you met your grandfather?
It was so good. It was so good, Ian. We were not allowed to go on the other side. My grandmother went with my mom. And when they came back with him from town, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. We were all crying. The whole village was crying. Everybody was crying because of they knew him. they knew him. And they knew what he stood for. And for us, he was a stranger. But to know that he's one of the people who has done this, the Sisulus, we don't live far away from each other, the Sisulus, all of the heroes. It was a village. Even if you go now in the streets of Soweto, you will see all those houses. They are called museum houses because we don't live far from each other. The man knew what they were talking about. Not this idiot who's driving on the motorway this morning and saying he doesn't know what we're going through.
The other thing you mentioned that was interesting, you said that there was no one in South Africa who was of the same calibre to carry on what Nelson Mandela had achieved. Do you think South Africa is going to be in trouble?
Politically, I think we are in trouble, politically. And probably I'm talking of me being here for more than 15 years. But to be honest with you, looking at it back home, I would have loved things to be changed so much. When I go home all the time, it's like thinking that if they could change this, making the poor be better, helping those who can, I think somehow making it an equal Africa, South Africa that we wanted it to be. I would think personally things haven't changed that much.
And Lucy, I really appreciate your call this morning. Thank you very much. It's very easy for me, a white middle class person in Britain who's had it pretty easy to make judgments and things like that. But hearing from a black South African who has a personal involvement is fascinating. Well, just try and sum up for those listeners like me who might be struggling to understand how important Nelson Mandela was. What did he mean to you?
For us, he meant everything. He meant he was the father of the nation. He was there to tell us, to say, to those who were fighting in 1976 in the struggle of the students when they didn't want to do Afrikaans anymore. He was the reason to the people to say, we struggle in prayer. We struggle without killing no one. We struggle in what we stand for. The truth, one day it will be set free. And that day, I could see it when Jesse Jackson was there saying, we are free today because of few words. Do not fight back. Do not fight back. And say, South Africa has come to a change. We did come to a free country. We did go to those shops where we were written, in 1980-something, shops still written blacks only, whites only. Buses were still written blacks only, buses whites only. We became free. We became free. Yes, some of us had a privilege of a better education, but for those who had nothing, we felt for them. We felt the same situation which we're in. So Mandela today, we are celebrating the life of a hero. We are celebrating his life because if God didn't bring that man into earth, South Africa was going to be under somebody else. Probably the apartheid regime was going to go somewhere. And many others who fought. Today, I'm proud to say, Iain, viva Nelson Mandela, viva, and may your soul rest in peace.
Lucy, I really appreciate your call this morning. That's Lucy in Dunstable. Thank you very much indeed. Responding to Stephen, who called up earlier on, was questioning whether we should be celebrating who he had termed a terrorist. And I think it's when you hear people like Lucy talking like that, you understand just how important and significant a figure he was. Josephine's in Watford. Good morning, Josephine.
Good morning, Iain.
Josephine, what would you like to say?
Really, I couldn't have been... What you've actually heard from Lucy was so eloquently put about Mr. Nelson Mandela, that it's so hard to even match that. I think the fool who you had on this morning to call Nelson Mandela a terrorist, to not understand the impact this man has had, not only in South Africa, but across the world, is absolutely fundamental. And you've got an idiot there does he not understand history? He couldn't even begin to be able to understand the pain that people went through. I mean, I'm sitting here in my car and I'm almost crying with Lucy to understand the pain that she had gone through. But not only her, but people across the world who suffered. And here is this man who's going to talk about Nelson Mandela being a terrorist, and nobody's got a squeaky clean past. Has he? Who on earth has a squeaky clean past? We've all maybe done one or two things we think maybe we shouldn't have done that. But does that mean that we are measured by that as an individual? The man is an absolute idiot. And I really do think that someone like that needs to be able to go and learn. He needs to go and understand history. He would not be able to understand the pain. He wouldn't be able to empathise at all. I think it's absolutely disgrace that someone like that should see Nelson Mandela as a terrorist.
Josephine, stay there.
Not the man.
Josephine, stay there a second, and I appreciate your passion. Phil's in High Wycombe. Phil, what would you like to say about Nelson Mandela?
Hi, Ian.
Morning.
Hiya. Just a quick one. I don't want to decry anything what people are saying and all the tributes that people are doing to Nelson Mandela. I think that's wonderful and it's understandable.
But
I think it's why it can't get away from it. I mean, everywhere I go this morning, every radio station I go on, there's other things going on in the world as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's very, very sad, and I'm not for 1 minute trying to disrespect the bloke or anything like that. But I think there are other news stories going on as well. I mean, you just can't get away from it. I mean, I bet you JVS will be banging on about it as well after 9. I mean, it's just going on and on and on.
Let's put that to Josephine. Josephine, are we banging on about it too much? There are other news stories?
Isn't this extraordinary? This is a major event that has actually happened of an individual who's had a phenomenal impact across the world. And he's going to complain that we are actually talking about a great leader. I don't understand him at all. Don't actually try and be someone who patronises what's gone on here. This is a time about celebrating a man who wanted to talk about and led on peace for all people. He wasn't focusing just on black people. This was about rights for everyone. And you're going to say it's all over the place. For so bloody what? This is the time to be able to understand that this is a man who created so much passion for other people to understand his suffering that he's gone through.
Well, Josephine,
to now come out the other end.
Josephine, let Phil
leave the nation, and he's going to turn around and say, "We are all over the place."
Josephine, Josephine, just let Phil respond. Phil,
I'm not complaining. I did say in the beginning that it's terrible.
Let him respond. Let him respond, Josephine. Let him respond.
What is my point? Well, I mean, by all means, give the bloke tributes and everything like that. No one's ever saying not to do anything like that. But there are other things going on as well. I mean, give it 10, 15 minutes, and all the nice things that they've done about him on the, some of the things that he said. He's obviously a very intelligent, very clever man. You can hear that, and it's sad that he's gone. But by all means, give it 10, 15 minutes, and then obviously, move on to do other news stories as well. This is just going on and on and on. I've never once disrespected him. I'm not ever saying that at all.
Do you not think, though, Phil, that he was such a huge figure in world politics, the likes of which we haven't seen for a while and probably won't see again for a while, that it does warrant this amount of attention?
Well, not all morning, no. Not all morning.
What other stories would you like us to talk about?
Well, I mean, the other stuff that you normally talk about, the local stuff and the things that are actually going on as well as this.
Well, we're talking about the Barnfield Academies and Federation.
All right, one other story then, or whatever. I mean, I think I'd be interested to see how many other people actually agree with me. As I say, I'm not disrespecting it at all. I'm just putting an opinion.
Phil, we're going to end it there. Thank you very much. Phil in High Wycombe, thinking we're hearing too much about it. And Josephine, thank you very much for your passion. A lot of passion this morning. A category D slipped out there. Apologies if anyone was offended, but I'm sure you can understand the circumstances. But I know what it's like when we have young ears in the car and something pops out. But Phil, thank you. Josephine, thank you. And, of course, thank you to Lucy in Dunstable. 08459 455 555. It's 7:30. Let's get the travel news now. Here's Alice.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Things looking busy on the sensors heading away from Clop Hill on the eastbound A507. In Brent Cross, the A406 heading west entry slip road is partially blocked at Staples Corner after a car has broken down. The M25 anti-clockwise very slow between 17 for Maple Cross and 16 for the M40. Public transport, First Capital Net are running a reduced service on the Hertford Loop line before 10 today. That's because of the weather conditions. There's also a tree on the line just south of New Barnet, which is blocking one of the northbound lines, causing disruption on services via Welwyn Garden City from both Moorgate and King's Cross. I'm Alice Glossop, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Alice, thank you very much. News and sport now. Here's Jane Killick.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, it's 7:31. South Africans and millions of people around the world are mourning the death of Nelson Mandela. He died at his home in Johannesburg last night at the age of 95. David Cameron said a great light had gone out in the world. President Obama described him as influential, courageous and profoundly good. Former teachers at a Barnfield Federation establishment claim they were made to spoon-feed pupils' coursework answers to make sure grade standards were maintained. The Bedfordshire-based federation denies the allegations. The weather, mostly cloudy with sunny spells this morning, some patchy rain this afternoon with temperatures up to 4 Celsius. On to sport, and in cricket, England are struggling on the second day of the second Ashes Test in Adelaide. Australia declared on 570 for 9, with centuries for Michael Clarke and Brad Haddin. A few moments ago, England were on 33 for 1 in reply. Captain Alistair Cook was bowled by Mitchell Johnson for just 3. In football, Watford could have more players back from injury for tomorrow's championship trip to Leeds. Defender Ikechi Anya could feature, and midfielder Alman Abdi is close to a return. The Hornets secured a draw at Burnley on Tuesday night after back-to-back home defeats. Luton Town will be without injured centre-back Alex Lacey for the conference trip to Alfreton tomorrow. It could mean a league debut for one of the loan signings made by manager John Still last week. The boss says he wouldn't be afraid of playing any of them.
All three of them are under consideration. I mean, people haven't seen Alfie yet. Alfie is what might be classed as a typical centre-half. Lacey won't be fit, so we'll be without him. So all three of them definitely will be in and around it.
And the founder of Hertfordshire Mavericks Netball Club, Gloria Keach, won the East Region's BBC Sports Unsung Hero Award last night. Keach has also been involved in netball in Bedfordshire for 40 years. She won a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Heart Sports Awards dinner last night, and she will now be going to the BBC Sports Personality of the Year show. BBC Three Counties News and Sport. I'll be back with a bulletin at 8.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
Morning.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
A few discerning voices. Most of you glad that we're talking about Nelson Mandela. A few of you disappointed. Christina has put on Facebook, Mandela was a world leader. This is local radio. There is a huge local story with floods. What's happening on the East Coast? Well, he was a world leader, Christina, but a world leader that changed the world, that changed our world. Now, again, it's hard for us as white middle-class people to appreciate exactly what that change was. But he has changed the world. And floods, I think the weather has kind of calmed down. We'll get the latest to find out if there have been any floods. Christina, if you know about some floods, could you let us know? I know that the weather was pretty rotten last night, thoroughly rotten. A couple of lives were lost in various parts of the country. Floods? We'll find out, Christina, but I'm not completely sure about that. 08459 455 555, and Alan has emailed, I agree with Phil, let's move on. And a couple of texts. Stuart Milton Keynes. Ian, I get that the world is mourning for Nelson Mandela, but where's the rest of the news? Like hundreds of families affected by the storms last night and will be having a rubbish Christmas. Stuart Milton Keynes. And talking about heroes, Peter from Kensworth says, of course there are more heroes. Every fireman who's risked his own life to save another person's life is a hero. Come to think of it, I would say any person who risks their own mortality to save someone's life is a hero. Wise words indeed from Peter in Kensworth. 08459 455 555. Now, it's been alleged that teachers at the Barnfield Federation education institutions were made to spoon-fed pupils' coursework to get better grades, a BBC Three Counties investigation has found. The subjects include GCSE maths and English. The Bedfordshire-based college and federation is currently being investigated by the Department for Education. Political reporter Paul Scoynes has the story. What's the new allegation?
Well, Ian, we know that the College and Federation is being investigated over allegations of grade massaging and its operational finances. We understand, too, that there have been allegations of bullying of staff made to the Department for Education. They won't confirm as in the department won't confirm anything, saying it's only investigating the college and the Federation. It's taking the allegations seriously. What we found out is that whistleblowers who've come forward to us, former teachers at one of the academies, contacted us here at Three Counties Radio after you interviewed Stephen Hall, the chief executive, at the end of October. And the ones I've spoken to, as I say, are former teachers of academies. I did a long interview with two of them last week. This is an excerpt from our interview with the whistleblowers, which goes on to explain what they're alleging. What were you expected to do?
Getting students' grades by whatever it takes. Some colleagues felt really uncomfortable with that, in that basically it was demanded, expected to spoon-feed students to get the grades. They would be continually rewriting pieces of coursework, controlled assessment. They'd take the students off timetable for core subjects in particular, and then just spend, a week making sure they rewrote it until they'd achieved those grades. Some of the teachers felt they weren't really teaching. They were saying, you need to put this in, you need to put this in. It really goes against our ethical code as a teacher. And actually, you're not doing well by the students either.
Now, that's the voice of an actress, not the whistleblower. Now, controlled assessments and courseworks have fairly strict conditions, Iain. One example saying that if students do any work on the actual task prior to the assessment taking place, the teacher must not mark or comment on it, as this would be seen as drafting and redrafting. Now, the Barnfield Federation tell us it does not recognise the picture being painted by these accusations and strongly refutes these claims. They say this does not happen at any of their institutions. They say that the investigation by the Department for Education is into operational procedures at the college and the Federation and not anything to do with the academies.
Also allegations made by the whistleblowers that they couldn't put any of these concerns to the Department for Education.
Yeah, that's right. We know that the investigations have been in Bedfordshire, taking witness statements over a number of days. However, when some of these people have wanted to speak to the Department for Education, they found it very difficult, as this whistleblower tells us.
Yeah, I did try ringing them, and it was really difficult. The person at the end of the line at the Department for Education sort of said, I don't know who you need to speak to. I felt like I was going round in circles, so I gave up.
What's been the reaction to these claims?
Well, we've heard concern from local MPs this week, and further afield, Ed Miliband told me that he was worried about the allegations that the teachers have made.
Well, I am concerned about the allegations, and of course they've got to be properly looked at, all of the allegations around this chain. And I think it is an illustration of the wider problem that there is, which is that Michael Gove believes that you can run all of Britain's schools, academy schools and free schools, from central government. That's thousands of schools. Actually, what you need is local accountability as well, because that is really, really important for holding schools to account and making sure that we have proper financial management, proper systems and proper processes in place at all of our schools. That's what our kids deserve. That's what parents have a right to expect.
Michael Gove, the Education Secretary, has been responding to some of these complaints too.
Yes, as we know, the department hasn't really said very much about this, only that short statement that I read a moment ago. Speaking recently in Suffolk, Michael Gove denied the academy system didn't have the right amount of oversight.
I think our system is working. At the moment, we're investigating some allegations that have been made about a variety of things that happened at Barnfield. Until that investigation concludes, I don't think I can comment on it. It wouldn't be fair to any of the people involved. One of the things that we have found, though, is that when other complaints have been made about things that have been going wrong in other schools, the department and its agencies have been as quick to investigate them, if not quicker, than other local authorities. But obviously, if there are people who feel that their attempt to blow the whistle or to register complaints haven't been handled properly, then A, I'm concerned about it, and B, I want to make sure that they get a proper answer.
Barnfield has denied any wrongdoing throughout this process, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's always said that the investigations relate to the past, and of course, earlier this week, that we had the former Director General of the Federation, Sir Peter Burkitt, who founded the Federation in 2007, resigned from his role at an international school, saying that in order that this issue doesn't become an undue distraction for his colleagues and the work of GEMS, he decided to resign from the position. Now, he said when he moved on from the Federation in July this year, the interim results were the highest ever. They were in a healthy financial reserves, and the reshaping of the college would put the organisation in a solid position moving forward. So robust words from him.
Paul, thank you. Stay there just a second. I'm joined now by Tony Callaghan. He's a former Bedfordshire teacher, union spokesman and education advisor. Good morning, Tony. Are you surprised at all by this?
No. Good morning. No, not surprised at all. And in fact, as a former, head teacher in Bedfordshire, I'm sure if I described an investigation by the government into my finances and, as you say, allegations of grade massaging, if I described that to my governors as an undue distraction, I think they'd have probably sacked me. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, there are tremendous pressures on teachers, heads of department in all schools, not just academies and free schools, etc., these days, to actually climb the greasy pole of the league tables. And it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, again, pressure from government for academies to be top of the pile, as it were. It doesn't surprise me at all, and I think it's a very, very sad day that it seems to me, from what I've investigated, that some of these teachers, some of the rank and file teachers, some of those who've actually now resigned, were actually bullied, if you like, into trying to improve the grades of the students.
Well, these are the allegations being made. Barnfield, of course, denied that. We've got a tweet from Andrew who says most schools coached pupils to raise grades over the last decade or longer. Is that common practice, do you think?
I think it was. I think, not just. I think under the Blair and Brown governments, there was tremendous pressure for schools, for education, if you like, to after Tony Blair's education, tremendous pressure to actually improve the grades at GCSE and A level, and I think that that teachers were encouraged, if you like, to teach to the test to improve the results, and this is one reason, of course, why Michael Gove is actually going to revamp the whole system and, in fact, do away with coursework.
That is one of the reasons being you're suggesting because perhaps children were getting too much help or coaching on their coursework.
Absolutely, yes.
Tony, thank you very much indeed. Tony Callaghan, former Bedfordshire teacher, union spokesman, education advisor. But Barnfield didn't want to be interviewed by the BBC before the publication of the report. They've sent us a statement, haven't they, Paul?
Yeah, that's right. The Federation, they say, does not recognise the picture being painted by these accusations and strongly refutes these claims. They say our students are our lifeblood and follow a personalised learning programme suited to their individual needs and aimed at developing rounded young people who will reach their potential prepared for the world of work. They go on to say that the current investigation is not about education standards, it's about operational issues, and any lessons about how things were done in the past will be learned, implemented and adhered to. They say that we are already in the process of making sure that Barnfield is fit for the future and not held back by its past.
If I remember correctly, when we spoke to Stephen Hall, the chief exec of Barnfield, he was the gentleman that said he would come back after the report, I think, didn't he?
Yes, indeed, and I've spoken subsequently. I've had a lot of conversations with representatives of the Federation over the last couple of weeks, and they say that they would be very happy to come back on and defend the Federation after the publication of the report, which clearly, from the statement they've given us, they're setting up to show that these, and they've always said that these are historical allegations that have been made about them. They've always denied that the academies are involved, but obviously the whistleblowers, all of the whistleblowers we've spoken to, have been involved in the academy system and not in the college. So it is, we will see what happens.
I
with
look
the
forward to speaking to them, but just to reiterate, of course, Barnfield deny all of these allegations.
Yes, indeed.
Paul Scoins, thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give me a call, or you can go to facebook.com/BBC3CR. On Twitter, the Quadrant says Nelson Mandela is newsworthy because he fought for equality with white middle classes too. Well, he fought for equality, so the equality covers everybody, doesn't it? Your calls on Nelson Mandela, and are there any more heroes left in the world? BBC Three Counties Radio, let's get the travel news now with Alice.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Things looking slow in Beaconsfield on the A40 southbound. That's at Park Lane. In Brent Cross, the A406 heading west, the entry slip road there is partially blocked at the M1 Junction 1 Staples Corner after a car has broken down. M25 anti-clockwise looking very slow between 17 for Maple Cross and 16 for the M40. On public transport, First Capital Connect have a reduced service on the Hertford Loop line today. That's up until 10 o'clock this morning because of weather conditions. Tickets are being accepted on Greater Anglia and London Underground, though. There's also a tree on the line just south of New Barnet, blocking one of the northbound lines, which is causing some disruption on services via Welling Garden City. I'm Alice Glossop, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Alice, thank you very much. Right, 7:46. It's Friday the 6th of December. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Tributes are being paid to Nelson Mandela, who died last night. Former teachers for the Bedfordshire-based Barnfield Federation reveal how pupils were spoon-fed answers to coursework. In cricket, at close of play on the second day of the second test in Adelaide, England were on 35 for 1 in reply to Australia's 570 for 9. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Let's get the latest weather with Elizabeth Rizzini.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello, very good morning to you. Well, it's a much calmer day today than it was yesterday. The northwesterly wind is certainly an awful lot lighter, and it will continue to lighten through the course of the day too. Now, temperature-wise, we started off on around 2 or 3 degrees, so not quite as cold as we were originally expecting, actually. A little bit of a bonus there. Some spells of brightness and sunshine around, just a small chance of 1 or 2 showers, just clipping northern areas of Bedfordshire, I think, in particular, some showers just working their way down on that northwesterly wind, but it's a very small risk of a shower. Most places are going to stay dry. There will be some brightness and some sunshine, quite a lot of cloud around at times though, and temperatures on the chilly side. We're only looking at highs of around, well, between 4 and perhaps as high as 6 degrees, 43 in Fahrenheit later on through the afternoon. Overnight tonight then we'll see things cloud over somewhat. Temperatures again down to around 2 or 3 degrees I think for most places. We might just get a touch of rural frost where we do see some clearer spells. Just a few outbreaks of rain always possible as well, just coming in on the wind. And for the weekend it's looking a lot milder. Temperatures are going to climb again all the way up to 8 or 9 degrees by Saturday and on Sunday. It's going to be a dry weekend. There'll be some good brightness, perhaps some sunny spells around on Saturday. Sunday cloudier and generally settled into next week.
Thank you very much. Now, Christina Pearce, who is upset that we're talking about Nelson Mandela for so much, said on Facebook, Mandela was a world leader. This is local radio. There is a huge local story with floods. Now, it's the first I've heard of it. What is happening on the East Coast, she goes on to say. Well, I haven't heard of any floods within the three counties. Have you heard of any floods? I'm not saying there haven't been.
No,
I haven't heard.
I think the floods we're talking about in the national news are tidal, aren't they? So
yes.
they're on the coast.
If anybody knows any different, to set... Christina's obviously panicking about this, so to put her mind at ease, 08459 455 555.
Every weekday morning from 9.
That's ghastly. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Don't talk about morals because he doesn't care about the man in the street.
The biggest local talking points.
I found out a couple of hours later it was a murder. Over the phone, they phoned me up and told me.
I don't know why you're picking on that man.
The JVS Show.
I feel it's out of place in this country.
Let me be really frankly honest with you.
Local government and government are doing a good job-ish.
I never call in, but I feel so passionate about this topic.
The JVS Show. Weekdays from 9. BBC Three Counties Radio.
I'm getting lots of reaction to the news that Nelson Mandela has died at the age of 95. Among the emails we've received was from Bev Cray. She's a journalist from the Luton News and Herald and Post. Bev, it seems odd that you got in touch with us. What's your connection with Nelson Mandela?
I wrote a story about Winnie Mandela a very long time ago when he was still in jail. And some of the things she said about him just made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up.
So you got to interview Winnie Mandela?
Yes, I flew out to South Africa. I was working for Woman magazine at the time. And it was when she was still really a banned person. So, it was quite tricky getting the interview.
How did you sort... is Woman magazine still going?
Yeah, indeed it is.
I remember my Woman and Woman's Own were my mum's top reads. How did you manage to get an interview with Winnie Mandela for Woman magazine?
you just keep trying and trying and trying. And, it took me quite a long time to organise this. And then I flew out and I met her in Cape Town, and we couldn't really talk there. So we went up to Johannesburg. It was amazing.
And you say you couldn't really talk there. Why not? Were the authorities monitoring?
Yes, she was a banned person, but I mean, she had then become, it was before she really went bad, and she was regarded as the mother of the nation.
Yes.
And, she was a really feisty lady, and I think they just sort of kept their distance to a certain extent. And I know I interviewed her with a tape recorder, and then I transcribed the tape and all sorts of different things just in case I was stopped, and
wow.
it all taken off me.
What did she tell you? What did you learn about Nelson Mandela?
One of the things she said was, he never met his children until they were 16. I mean, he knew them obviously when they were small, but he was in jail for 24 of their 28-year marriage. And one of the things she said to me was having to introduce their father to the children for the first time was so painful, having to explain to a child that she has to be proud of her father behind bars. And she also said she was allowed to see him, I think, for 40 minutes a month. And she said, I always left those visits recharged. He exudes such warmth. He has such a formidable presence that being with him makes you feel liberated. He gives you incredible confidence. He builds your soul. I went for the inspiration he gave me when it should have been the other way around.
And he obviously was a very... we've heard from some of the callers today the passion that they hold for Nelson Mandela and for what he achieved. He obviously was a very inspirational gentleman.
Very much so, yeah. And, all your people who are saying it's not a local story, there are loads of South Africans living in this area, quite apart from the fact that he was a world leader. Everyone is interested in him.
Well, we are getting some people saying, stop talking about a terrorist. What would you say to them?
Just, please open your eyes to what this man achieved. To me, he was an absolute saint. And I really don't think there's anyone to compare anywhere.
Bev, I really appreciate you getting in touch with us. It's fascinating. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
There we go. Bev Craig, thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555. The thing is, yes, it is a world story, but he has changed the world. He's changed the world that you live in. And also, I don't know if you've noticed the canny trick we're doing. Has anyone noticed the canny trick we're doing here? We're making the story local. Have you noticed that we're doing that? All you dissenters, we are getting people who are local who have a connection. What a fantastic story there. Bev Craig got in touch with us this morning, saying, yeah, I work for a Luton newspaper. I went out to South Africa and interviewed Winnie Mandela. Lucy, who called in, who was very passionate. Her grandfather had been in prison on Robben Island with Nelson Mandela. She lives in Dunstable. So, local and indeed vocal, I think we are ticking both of those boxes there.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, on to other stories. Do you remember last week we told you about a massive hole that appeared bang outside the front door of a High Wycombe takeaway? Cool Runnings was struggling because the electricity company decided to dig a massive hole without telling him. Well, the owner, Elroy Ray, was sitting in an empty restaurant, no customers, no food, while Southern Electric dealt with power problems next door. I know lots of you have been curious to know what happened next. Well, Elroy's on the line. Good morning, Elroy.
Morning.
What's the latest?
They came Tuesday and put down a platform for us to start trading. So I appreciate that, even though it took so long.
How many days did it take for them to put down a platform?
9 days, 8 days.
See, that's absolutely incredible. And did they say anything? Did they apologise at all?
Not even as much as a letter saying that they apologise for the inconvenience. Nothing at all. I've been in touch with one of the lady in Reading. She's just trying to sort things out at the moment.
So how much money do you think you've lost as a result of these works?
Off the top of my head, I'm just waiting on the accountant to finish off the paperwork to send to them at the moment. Roughly about £6,000
Wow. And have they mentioned compensation at all? Are you hopeful that you'll be able to get some money off them?
Well, I'm hoping. because if they don't, then we just take it straight to court. Because at the end of the day, they close us without even inform us, so I'm sure they got something up the sleeve.
Well, I hope they do. So you got the little walkway on Tuesday. What does the front of the shop look like now?
It's okay now. They came and sorted it out.
Right.
So it's nice and clean, back to the way it was.
And you're open for business. Are you getting people coming in now?
Yes.
Excellent.
But not as fast as, because a lot of people don't know that we're still open. So all the people ringing up and be informing people that we're still open.
This must have been quite stressful for you, Elroy.
Yeah, I have no idea. No idea for you to just wake up in the morning, come to open your business place, and then without a form of information, your business is basically closed.
Well, Elroy, listen, I'm glad that you're open. I'm sure things will pick up. Do keep in touch with us and let us know whether Southern Electric do give you any compensation or anything.
I will do.
Thank you very much. Let's give the shop a plug again, Elroy. It's Cool Runnings. Where exactly is it?
160 Desborough Road.
OK, well, if you pop in today, tell him you heard him on the show this morning. 08459 455 555. Thank you for that, Elroy. Sam's in Luton. Good morning, Sam. Hello, Sam.
Hi, it's Francis.
Hello, Francis.
Yeah, it's Francis.
Francis, what would you like to say?
He was talking about Nelson Mandela.
We have mentioned him, yes. He passed away last night.
Yes, my name is not Sam, it's Francis.
OK, Francis.
Yes, one of the callers was saying that Nelson Mandela is a terrorist. The man was talking a lot of rubbish.
Go on, tell me why.
I don't understand why. I mean, Nelson Mandela wasn't a terrorist. He was fighting for his people, trying to build a better life for his people.
Right.
And why can't that man say people like Saddam Hussein was terrorist? Saddam Hussein was a terrorist, and Colonel Gaddafi, they were terrorists, not Nelson Mandela.
Francis, thank you very much for your call. 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Let's have a look here. Iain, what a great example Nelson Mandela set to other world leaders. A man of compassion and understanding that made sacrifices just so that others could be heard and bringing fairness, peace and equality to a country he loved and believed in. Shame on those whinging, selfish callers who cannot sacrifice just one day in their lives the news of a great man in our time. Men like Mr. Mandela help shape the world we live in today, but unfortunately we're dogged with people who just want to get on with their own little lives that will have no impact on any of us. Pat, thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Lots of you having your say on Facebook. Christina, we've not heard about any floods within Beds, Herts and Bucks yet. I know you want us to talk about the floods within Beds, Herts and Bucks, but we've not heard of any floods within Beds, Herts and Bucks yet. If we do, we'll let you know. And on the subject of heroes, Aidan says, Iain asked if there were any more heroes in the world. I say yes, Muhammad Ali is a hero to millions, not just a great sportsman, but a man who stood for equality. He refused to be conscripted into the US Army. When attempting to eat in a USA restaurant, he was told by the staff they didn't serve black men. Ali replied, "Don't worry, I don't eat them."
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Things looking slow around Milton Keynes, heading west on the A421, approaching the M1. That is struggling a little bit. In Brent Cross, the A406 westbound entry slip road is now clear at Staples Corner following an earlier breakdown. N25 anti-clockwise, heavy between 17 for Maple Cross and 16 for the M40. On public transport, First Capital Connect have a reduced service this morning on the Hertford Loop line because of the weather conditions. There's also a tree on the line just south of New Barnet, which is blocking one of the northbound lines. Delays of up to 20 minutes on services from both Moorgate and King's Cross can be expected. I'm Alice Glossett, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Alice, thank you very much indeed. More of your reaction to the news that Nelson Mandela passed away. Do give us a call and we'll speak to you after the news and sport with Jane Killick.
Local and vocal across Beds, Herts and Bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 8 o'clock. I'm Jane Killick. The headlines: tributes to Nelson Mandela, who's died at the age of 95. Former teachers at Barnfield Federation speak out, and 2 teenagers due in court over Luton murder.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
South Africa's first black president, Nelson Mandela, has died. He was 95. Mr Mandela passed away peacefully at his home in Johannesburg, where he was being treated for the recurrence of a lung infection, having spent 3 months in hospital. He'd only been seen rarely in public since officially retiring in 2004. The South African president, Jacob Zuma, said the nation had lost its greatest son and its people had lost their father. He praised his humanity and his humility.
Although we knew that this day would come, nothing can diminish our sense of a profound and enduring loss. His tireless struggle for freedom earned him the respect of the world.
Lucy from Dunstable grew up in South Africa. Her grandfather was imprisoned in Robben Island with Nelson Mandela. She told BBC Three Counties Radio about the day they were released.
I remember the day they mentioned that they are coming out. We heard it from the radio. We never went to school that day. We were celebrating because of that evening. It was a party in South Africa. We couldn't believe it. Our parents couldn't believe they will see the day. The whole world was watching.
In other news this morning, former teachers at a Barnfield Federation establishment claim they were made to spoon-feed pupils' coursework answers to make sure grade standards were maintained. The Bedfordshire-based federation denies the allegations. An investigation into the college and the federation by the Department for Education is ongoing and due to be published later this month. Our political reporter Paul Scoynes has more.
The claims come from former teachers at one of the schools taken over by the Barnfield Federation. They say they were told to help pupils rewrite coursework until it was of sufficient standard to achieve at least a C grade. They claim the practice was particularly common in English and maths. The Federation strongly denies this happened at any establishment and refutes these claims.
2 18-year-olds from Luton are due in court this morning, accused of stabbing another teenager to death. 19-year-old Mika Urquhart died in Hastings Street on September the 13th. Waka Eunice from Queen's Close and Paul Lynham from Midland Road have both been charged with murder. A woman's been taken to hospital after a fire on her narrowboat in Hertfordshire. Firefighters were called to the canal at Bulbourne near Tring at 1:45 this morning. The woman was suffering from the effects of breathing in smoke. In cricket, Australia dominated the second day of the second Ashes Test in Adelaide. Australia declared their first innings on 570 for 9. England were 35 for 1 at the close, with Michael Carberry on 20 and Joe Root on 9. The weather, a bright and frosty start with a cold wind, a mix of cloud and sunny spells this morning with a high of 4 Celsius. And get the latest news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties.
We're coming to towns and villages all across our counties. BBC Three Counties Radio's big tour of beds, hearts and bucks.
It's got a wonderful, youthful vibe. The shopkeepers would chat to you and then they'd remember you when you came back.
If things need doing, then people do get together.
All this week in Hitchin.
It's lovely. I wouldn't like to live anywhere else.
The big tour of beds, hearts and bucks. BBC Three Counties Radio.
I do like it when people think I don't recognise voices and stuff. What silly sausages they are. What silly sausages. Right. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. It's been a busy morning. Thank you for all your phone calls. Another hour to get through before JVS at 9 o'clock. The main story of the day, of course, Nelson Mandela has died at the age of 94. We'll be getting your reaction and hearing from people living in the three counties who've met him over the years. Some incredible stories already. Looking forward to hearing some more. Also bringing you the latest on the investigation into practices within the Bedfordshire-based Barnfield Federation. I understand the government's looking into various accusations, including grade massaging at its facilities. If you want to take part in the show, do give me a call, 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
08459 455 555 95, of course. I don't know why I said 94. Oh, yes, I do. It's because Catherine wrote it down in the menu. Yeah, you... Peg your pudding.
I'm sorry for the confusion.
Thank you very much. Io's in Luton. Good morning, Io.
Morning.
What would you like to say?
Yeah, my name is Iain Onotola. Yeah, I'm calling regarding tributes to Nelson Mandela.
Yes.
I want to first mention that people coming on this program should be well informed before talking anything they like.
Well, if that was a prerequisite, Iain, we'd have no phone callers, let me tell you that. What has angered you that people have said this morning?
People calling Mandela terrorists is to me, to say the least, is the height of is a way to diminish the personality of Nelson Mandela, and that cannot be achieved. This is a world leader. Mandela was a known figure. It is not just by mistake that Great Britain can put a statue at the center of London if he wasn't a great man. Mandela fought tooth and nail for the liberation of his people from the hand of the oppressor. So he wasn't a terrorist. He was purely a Democrat and a thoroughly bred leader. And in life and death, I don't think we would ever have in this generation any leader like Mandela. Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, every name mentioned, Bill Clinton, all those people, they came around to build on what people have built. Mandela fought for the emancipation of his people right from foundation. He remained the world's greatest leader.
Let me put.
He wasn't a terrorist.
Okay, let me put a couple of points here. We've had some comments on Facebook. Let me just pick one at random. From Andrew, the world. Enough on Nelson Mandela. The world does not revolve around him. I'm already sick of hearing about him. His death is sad, of course, but for the vast majority of the population, who cares? What would you say to that?
That is how far his knowledge goes. Give honor to whom honor is due. Mandela never asked us to do all this for him, but people are saying or paying all these people for him because he has left a good footprint on the sand of time. The kind of people talking like that, they are Lilliputian in ideas. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much indeed. May I suggest you get a new telephone? Unless you enjoy the huge stadium echo effect. Maybe that's an app you've got. Thank you very much indeed. Bill in Milton Keynes says, Ian, you're being very patronising to the lady who's worried about the floods on the coast. This was on Facebook. I think it was Christina Pearce. You're being very patronising to the lady. Have you not thought that she might have family there? Perhaps it's time to change my morning radio channel. Bill, please feel free to. You won't find a show as good as this, I guarantee, and I know you won't change. No, not being patronising at all, Bill. Christina has mentioned on Facebook, this is local radio, there is huge local story with floods. Well, I'm asking people to call in with their local stories about floods. Nobody has called in. As far as I know, there aren't any local floods. Yes, the coast, it's the tide has risen, and it's standing on alert. But as far as I'm aware, if I'm wrong, please call in now and correct me, and we will correct that huge gap in our local knowledge. 08459 455 555. Not patronising in the slightest, Bill, and interesting that you would pick up on it in that way. It's just questioning. Which is, I think, is a good thing to do. It's what we like to do here on BBC Three Counties Radio. Now, we are getting lots of local reaction to the news that the former South African president, Nelson Mandela, has died at the age of 95. Well, back in the year 2000, he visited Bedford to unveil a bust of the anti-apartheid campaigner, Archbishop Trevor Huddleston, who was born in the town. Andrew Sinclair was the reporter on the day.
Freedom is coming, oh yes, I know. Freedom is coming.
Songs from the liberation struggle sung by children who barely remember the days when the apartheid regime of South Africa was internationally vilified and its most famous opponent was in jail. Yet, such is the appeal of Nelson Mandela, they were waiting for hours to catch a glimpse.
I could call him a miracle man, a very miracle man.
He's an inspiration to us all, even when you've never been to South Africa. A massive man, a brilliant man that's made such a difference to the whole world.
By afternoon, as many as 10,000 people had crowded into the town centre, and when he arrived, they went wild. His security people wanted to move him straight to the podium, but the former president began shaking hands. Eventually, the ceremony began. There was a brief interruption from a streaker, But Mr Mandela didn't seem to mind.
Of Archbishop.
They listened to his speech in silence. He described Archbishop Huddleston as one of the giants of the liberation movement. Bedford's memorial was fitting.
And I'm very honoured today to be here to pay homage to the memory of a great man.
There was time for a dance, and then it was time to leave. The whole visit had lasted barely half an hour, and the people of Bedford will always remember this amazing day.
Well, that was Nelson Mandela visiting Bedford in the year 2000. A streaker in the year 2000? Surely that's only a 1980s phenomenon.
You would think so. Comedy streaker, the policeman's helmets.
We'll celebrate the magic of streakers another day, because I think it's a wonderful British thing. In the meantime, though, Justin Dealey is in Bedford for us this morning. Morning, Justin. Who have you been talking to?
Yes, I've been talking to Opu Bagchi, who campaigned for the bust in the town. Some incredible memories there. What a fantastic atmosphere. Opu was there, and he's been telling me his memories of Nelson Mandela coming to Bedford back in 2000.
Oh, it was a fantastic occasion for us. It was a great honour for us as well, for Bedford as a whole. And because I was the chairman of the Trevor Huddleston, I don't know whether people realise that Trevor Huddleston was born and brought up in Bedford. And he was also one of the bishop in South Africa, and who did a tremendous amount of work against apartheid. And Mandela came to know him quite well. So when Mandela came to know that we had got a bust for Trevor Huddleston, and he wanted to come and sort of commemorate this whole occasion. So it was a brilliant occasion. It was great, and it was moving. I still remember the day he came. It was in the afternoon, and there were children singing and dancing, and he joined with them. And so it was really very, very touching for us, and we were honoured. I think that's the only way I can put it. And it's a sad day for all of us, and sad day for the South Africa as well as the whole world, because he was a kind of iconic man. And I think there was only other person I can think of who could come or stood out in the same way as Gandhi. Gandhi brought independence for India, and I think Mandela brought independence for South Africa.
I mean, the atmosphere sounded incredible when he came to Bedford back in 2000. You would have spoken to him. What did you say to Nelson Mandela?
I only say, thank you very much for coming. I had only chance of really giving my kind of real appreciation of the way he actually acted with the people, and he made a very moving speech as well. So I was only the chairman of this committee, but the mayor of Bedford was somebody else, and Carol Ellis was there, and so we had a very, very really moving, as I say, the most memorable occasion for us.
Fantastic, isn't it? Another local story there, Opu Bagchi, talking about the day that Nelson Mandela came to Bedford back in 2000.
Yes, I'm struck by the fact there was a streaker. I know there were more significant events involved in that day, and that the Nelson Mandela being there himself was the biggest thing, of course. But we don't really get streakers anymore, do we, just?
Well, do you know what? Years and years ago, I was doing the announcements for the London Broncos, and there was a streaker.
That's an American football side, is it?
Yeah, it's rugby league. So this streaker came on the pitch, rather impressive actually. But the streaker came onto the pitch, and I made some sort of announcement over the tannoy. That was it. Afterwards, I was taken into a room and I was told, "Hey, listen, you never, ever do that again. We don't like streakers." And I was like, well, it's a bit of a rarity these days. You know, I think everyone secretly likes a bit of a streaker, don't they?
Don't like streakers. Justin, what are the chances of next week, let's say Tuesday, of getting you to streak through various parts and beds, hearts and bucks, and then getting people's reactions?
Well, do you know what? Years ago, Ian, on Valentine's Day, I actually went out to various locations in Bedfordshire with roses, and I was pretty much naked. So it wouldn't be the first time.
Really?
Yeah. Funny enough, I was doing out my bedroom this week, and I came across some articles in the Looser News of me naked, I believe, at Electrolux years ago.
Oh, you've made me laugh. Justin, very quickly, your show tomorrow, 9 till 12. What's on there?
Oh, 3 hours of fantastic music. Tomorrow, we're going to be playing the UK and American charts from this weekend back in 1966. Some names for you, the Beach Boys that you love, of course.
Beautiful.
Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, some great stuff there. And also, I've been to the LP Cafe in Watford. It's
now, this place sounds interesting, doesn't it?
It's absolutely brilliant. It's on the parade in Watford. It's been open about 4 weeks or so now. So you go into this cafe, it's a coffee shop, and they've got all the vinyl records on the wall, and you take down a vinyl record, and they can put it on the turntable, so you're sitting there having a coffee, listening to real music, real vinyl. So I've been there, and I've been to record some musical memories from the cafe. So tomorrow, 9 until 12.
This place sounds great. I'm going to have to go down there.
We should go for a coffee, seriously. It's really unusual because, you know, nowadays, of course, even to see vinyl records is unusual, but to see them on a wall in a coffee shop, hearing them play, and you can actually take them down, you can touch and feel, you can put it on the turntable. How refreshing is that?
It's a date. I'll see you there, Justin. Thank you very much indeed. Justin Dealey will be live tomorrow between 9 and 12. Right, 8:16. Let's get the travel news now. Here's Alice.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
We've had a call from Laura in Leagrave to say that the Leagrave High Street is closed in both directions around Clydesdale Road because of an accident. In Beaconsfield, things looking heavy on the A40 southbound at Park Lane. In Chalfont St Giles, Amersham Road's also slow southbound at the Pheasant Hill. M25 anti-clockwise looking heavy between 17 for Maple Cross and 16 for the M40 still. Now on the M40 itself, looking heavy from the Denham roundabout up to the M25. Public transport, First Capital Connect have a reduced service on the Hertford Loop line before 10 a.m. today. I'm Alice Glossop, BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 8:17. It's Friday the 6th of December. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Tributes are being paid to Nelson Mandela, who died last night. Former teachers for the Bedfordshire-based Barnfield Federation reveal how pupils were spoon-fed answers to coursework. In cricket, at close of play on the second day of the second test in Adelaide, England were on 35 for 1 in reply to Australia's 570 for 9. The weather, cold with a mix of cloud and sunny spells this morning and patchy rain this afternoon.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Tomorrow, all 5 of our teams are back in action. In the league, Watford face another difficult task away to Leeds.
And compounds Watford's misery.
And Luton travel to Alfreton.
Andre Gray, who lashes it in.
It's also FA Cup second round there across Beds, Hearts and Bucks, as Wickham, MK Dons and Stevenage all have home ties and hope to reach the all-important third round.
Fantastic strike by Matt McClure.
Hurled it past the wall, into the net.
Squirts in under the goalkeeper, and we've got a bright spark in the game.
Hear your local team in Three Counties Sport tomorrow from 2 here on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Yes. I'm surprised you're working right up until Christmasington.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Is it really?
The 20th is my last day here.
Is it? Gosh.
I don't normally like taking Christmas and New Year off, and I just thought this year, I'll stuff it.
You thought, what the hell, let's do it.
What the hell, let's do it. So 20th, my last day here, 21st doing a little something somewhere else. Then that's it for pretty much 2 weeks.
Gosh.
Off on a holiday.
What will we do without you?
That sounds sarcastic. It does. You will get along fine. I think Roberto's filling in for a week.
What, on breakfast?
I think so, yes.
Oh, right,
They've got Radio Royalty filling in for a week.
Oh, right, OK. Well, I'll be off as well. I will be off for a couple of weeks.
OK, you're going away, though, aren't you?
Oh, of course.
Oh, you're going to come back tanned.
You don't think I'm staying in this cold country over Christmas, do you?
I couldn't do Christmas in another country.
No, I did, to be fair, I did Christmas in another country last year, and I hated it.
Yeah, it's not right.
I was in Argentina. Oh, they do have some weird Christmas ways in Argentina. Do you know what they did?
Did they chop the head off a live pig?
Well, first of all, it was about 35 degrees, which is just unnatural, isn't it?
No,
and I was being eaten alive by mosquitoes, because they celebrate it in the evening on the 24th.
Oh, they're bonkers.
Anyway, the mother of the family, she suddenly vanished at midnight, and suddenly comes out of a window with all these carrier bags, and through carrier bags of presents onto the garden.
How rude.
That was it.
That is disgusting.
That was how and then there was a mass scramble of people grabbing plastic bags and opening presents. That was it.
Oh, no.
It's time to go home.
No.
That's not Christmas, is it?
No, Christmas is you come down in the morning, oh, the milk's gone, the carrot's been eaten, oh, look, he's been!
Yes,
That's
exactly.
what Christmas is.
Exactly, and then you sit around and the day drags on and on and on, and then you eat too much food, have too much Pinot Grigio, members of the family fall asleep.
Or fall out.
General flatulence throughout
stinky.
the whole of the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then finally, when everyone can't take any more, you then go to bed.
Yeah, I love it. Or you get the cheese board out. That's when we get the cheese board out.
Yes, and then the Rennie before bed. That's what Christmas Day's all about.
Argentina wonders why they're in such trouble. I think you've just given us the reason. What's on your show this morning?
Yes, coming up on the Big Phone In this morning, of course, we are reflecting today's big news. I'm asking on the Big Phone In, did Nelson Mandela mean anything to you? As you've heard on your programme this morning, former South African president and apartheid leader Nelson Mandela anti-apartheid leader, of course, Nelson Mandela has died at the age of 95. Well, you won't escape the coverage today, and I was very interested in the call that you took from Phil in High Wycombe.
There are other things going on as well. I mean, give it 10-15 minutes, and all the nice things that they've done about him on the, some of the things that he said. He's obviously a very intelligent, very clever man. You can hear that. And it's sad that he's gone. But by all means, give it 10-15 minutes. And then, obviously, move on to do other news stories as well.
Well, I wonder if lots of people will agree with Phil this morning. Or, like millions of others around the world, I just wonder how many listeners across Beds, Hearts and Bucks have been inspired by his life, his message, and the political difference that he made. From 9 this morning, I want your views. Did Nelson Mandela mean anything to you? 08459 455 555.
Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Still taking your calls, of course, on Nelson Mandela. 08459 455 555. What did he mean to you? And we will listen. I hope you think we've been treating this fairly. We have had a few texts and calls from people who don't want to celebrate Steve, I think, was the caller we had earlier on, don't want to celebrate a terrorist. Phil, as you just heard there, who thinks we're going on about it too much. So 08459 455 555. I hope you think and I hope you feel that we're giving everyone a fair crack of the whip this morning. Oh, I popped. I haven't done that. I haven't done that for about 7 years. Any professional broadcaster worth his salt would never hop on the radio. Now, it's been alleged that teachers at the Barnfield Federation education institutions were made to spoon-feed pupils' coursework to get better grades. A BBC Three Counties radio investigation has found. The subjects include GCSE Maths and English. Well, the Bedfordshire-based college and federation is currently being investigated by the Department for Education. Political reporter Paul Scoynes has the story. What's the new allegation, Paul?
Well, Ian, we know that the college and the federation is being investigated over allegations of grade massaging and operational finances. The DfE, Department for Education, hasn't confirmed that, but it will only say that it's investigating the college and the federation and taking the allegations seriously. We understand too there have been allegations of bullying of staff made by several people to the DfE too. Now, the whistleblowers who've spoken to us, they're former teachers at one of the academies. They've contacted us here at Three Counties Radio after you interviewed Stephen Hall, who's the chief executive of the Barnfield Federation, about the investigation in October. Now, the ones I've spoken to are former teachers of academies. I did a long interview with two of them last week. This is an excerpt from our interview with the whistleblowers, voiced by one of our members of staff. What were you expected to do?
Getting students' grades by whatever it takes. Some colleagues felt really uncomfortable with that, in that basically it was demanded, expected to spoon-feed students to get the grades. They would be continually rewriting pieces of coursework, controlled assessment. They'd take the students off timetable for core subjects in particular and then just spend, a week making sure they rewrote it until they'd achieved those grades. some of the teachers felt they weren't really teaching. They were saying, you need to put this in, you need to put this in. You know, it really goes against our ethical code as a teacher, and actually you're not doing well by the students either.
Now, controlled assessments and courseworks have fairly strict conditions. One exam board says if students do any work on the actual task prior to the assessment taking place, the teacher must not mark it or comment on it, as this would be seen as drafting and redrafting. Now, the Barnfield Federation tells us that it does not recognise the picture being painted by these accusations and strongly refutes these claims. They say that the investigation by the DFE is into operational procedures at the college and the Federation and not anything to do with the academies.
There are also allegations made by the whistleblowers that they couldn't put any of these concerns to the Department for Education, weren't there?
Yeah, that's right. The investigations team from the department have been in Bedfordshire taking witness statements over a number of days. However, when some of the people we've spoken to wanted to put these points to the department, they found it very difficult.
Yeah, I did try ringing them and it was really difficult. The person at the end of the line at the Department for Education sort of said, I don't know who you need to speak to. I felt like I was going round in circles, so I gave up.
What's been the reaction to these claims?
Well, we've heard from local MPs and further afield, national politicians are getting involved as well. Michael Gove has said that the system's working and that the allegations on a variety of things which happened at Barnfield are sort of being looked into. Until that's concluded, he can't comment on it. Ed Miliband did speak to me a couple of weeks ago about these investigations. He said that he was very worried.
Well, I am concerned about the allegations, and of course they've got to be properly looked at, all of the allegations around this chain. And I think it is an illustration of the wider problem that there is, which is that Michael Gove believes that you can run all of Britain's schools, academy schools and free schools, from central government. That's thousands of schools. Actually, what you need is local accountability as well, because that is really, really important for holding schools to account and making sure that we have proper financial management, proper systems and proper processes in place at all of our schools. That's what our kids deserve. That's what parents have a right to expect.
Paul, thank you. More from Paul in a second. I'm joined now by Professor Alan Smithers, who's the Director of the Centre for Education and Employment Research at the University of Buckingham. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning.
Do the current guidelines on coursework give schools too much flexibility as to how they create exam conditions?
Up to a point, but this is something of which the government's aware. And the arrangements for GCSE themselves are changing. And from 2015, there'll be very much less coursework in most of the GCSEs. In parallel with those, however, there are qualifications that are regarded as GCSE equivalents. And these vocational qualifications have a lot of coursework in them. And moreover, they are marked within the colleges. So this gives a lot of scope for improving the grades.
So does the current system put pressure on schools to achieve certain standards and certain grades?
There's huge pressure on schools to get good grades for GCSEs. Part of that is to present themselves to parents as attractive and successful schools, but they have to meet certain minimum thresholds. And if schools don't achieve at least 40% of their pupils getting 5 GCSEs or equivalent, including English and maths, then a whole set of procedures comes into play. And the first of which is the warning letter, which I understand that the Skills Academy, part of Barnfield, has received.
And have you heard of schools giving extra help to students to achieve at least a C grade or better in their exams?
Well, the exam results are so enormously important that the schools will do anything, really, within the law to raise the grades that are obtained. And as you heard from the contributor, this could involve a lot of training on the tests. In terms of coursework, yes, there can be a lot of help given to the pupils in getting a high standard of work. The actual marking will be within the school quite often. So, yes, schools will do everything they can to put the best possible face on their exam results.
That sounds unethical to me.
Well, that's part of the system that they have to comply with. That if, I think in terms of the Skills Academy, it's particularly about vocational education. it's having to comply with academic requirements. And as we see that if it doesn't comply with those requirements, all sorts of procedures come into play with the head teacher, principal under pressure, with the staff under pressure. If this was a local authority school, there would be a likelihood that it would be taken out of local authority control and made into an academy. Since we're now with an academy, it's not so easy to see how the government can intervene.
Professor Alan Smithers from the University of Buckingham, thank you very much. Paul, what are Barnfield saying about this very quickly?
OK, very quickly.
Oops, excuse me.
Very quickly, the Federation says it does not recognise the picture being painted by these accusations, strongly refutes these claims. They say our students are our lifeblood and follow a personalised learning programme suited to their individual needs and aimed at developing rounded young people who will reach their potential prepared for the world of work. They say the current investigation is not about education standards, it's about operational issues. And they say that any lessons about how things were done in the past will be learned, implemented and adhered to. And finally, they say we are already in the process of making sure that Barnfield is fit for the future and not held back by its past.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
We had a call from Laura in Leagrave to say that the Leagrave High Street is closed in both directions around Clydesdale Road. Looking on the speed sensors, Aylesbury's looking slow on the Wendover Road heading south just after the A41. M25 anti-clockwise still heavy between 17 for Maple Cross and 16 for the M40. The M40 itself heading northbound, heavy from the Denham roundabout up to the M25. Public Transport First Capital Connect have a reduced service on the Hertford Loop line until 10 o'clock this morning. Tickets are being accepted on Greater Anglia and London Underground, though. I'm Alice Glossop, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Across beds, hearts and bugs.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's 8:32. I'm Jane Killick. South Africa's first black president, Nelson Mandela, has died. He was 95. Mr. Mandela passed away peacefully at his home in Johannesburg, where he was being treated for the recurrence of a lung infection, having spent 3 months in hospital. World leaders have been paying tribute. The Queen said she was deeply saddened. Nelson Mandela had worked tirelessly for the good of his country, and his legacy is the peaceful South Africa we see today. In other news, former teachers at a Barnfield Federation establishment claim they were made to spoon-feed pupils' coursework answers to make sure grade standards were maintained. The Bedfordshire-based federation denies the allegations. The weather, mostly cloudy with sunny spells this morning, some patchy rain this afternoon, with temperatures only up to around 4 Celsius. On to sport and in cricket, Australia dominated the second day of the second Ashes Test in Adelaide. The hosts declared their first innings on 570 for 9, with Michael Clarke and Brad Haddin making centuries and sharing a stand of 200. In reply, England were 31 for 1 at the close. Captain Alistair Cook was bowled out for just 3, Michael Carberry is on 20 and Joe Root on 9. In football, Watford could have more players back from injury for tomorrow's championship trip to Leeds. Defender Ikechi Anya could feature and midfielder Almen Abdi is close to a return. The Hornets secured a draw at Burnley on Tuesday after back-to-back defeats. Manager Gianfranco Zola thinks his side still has more to give.
What is important that we learn a lot from the game we played the other day and take everything that we did there to the next game. But I'm sure something more will come because I believe that my team hasn't given, even the other day, considering it was a good game, he hasn't given everything he can give.
Luton Town will be without injured centre-back Alex Lacey for the conference trip to Alfreton tomorrow. It could mean a league debut for one of the loan signings made by manager John Still last week. BBC Three Counties News and Sport. I'll be back with a full bulletin at 9.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio. Call 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Paul Scoins, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I don't normally open links in emails. Life is too short.
Yeah.
You've sent me a link. It's particularly a good reason not to open it. They're normally quite dull. But you've sent me a picture. It was titled Jelvis.
Yes.
I've opened it up. It is horrific. What am I looking at here?
Well, you were talking, I think, to Justin about Googling himself and some of the pictures that he found.
Yeah.
And I just wondered whether or not he might have found that photograph.
What is this?
I think that was taken at a BBC Three Counties event for children in need called Singers in Need, with Justin Dealey performing the hits of Elvis Presley.
Catherine, have you seen this photograph of J-Dog as Elvis?
I think I have seen those. That's burnt onto the back of my eyeballs.
That's her, that poor young girl who stood behind him, having to share the stage with that.
He's a very characterful singer.
He carries it off brilliantly. Can I just say that? I mean, you know, by Justin's standards, that shirt is open by a number of buttons. I think it went any lower, then we'd have to be calling his doctor.
I'm going to forward that on to Kelly Bett. I'll let Kelly be the judge as to whether we put that on Facebook or not, but we will. Paul, thank you very much for that. You've made my day.
Across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is Iain Lee.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
08459 455 555. It really is an horrific photograph. Helen Cook in Welwyn Garden City has emailed. I disagree with Phil, who phoned in earlier. Phil said basically that there is other news. Give Nelson Mandela 5, 10, 15 minutes and leave it at that. I always listen to your programme on the way to work and was going to change to BBC 4 if you hadn't been talking about Nelson Mandela this morning. Why would anyone who cares about equality and justice in the world be interested in focusing on local news when a great light has gone out? It's right to reflect the impact Nelson Mandela had in changing people's perceptions about other human beings and their treatment towards each other. The world is a better place because he was in it. I got some text as well. I'm sure the people of the UK respect Nelson, but life goes on. So all day today, it's Mandela like watching paint dry. I believe you mean paint. That's a window cleaner in Bovingdon. Anyone who says we shouldn't discuss Mandela because it isn't local news should go back under the stone. If local people are talking about it, then it should be discussed on local radio. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about an ex-president who was murdered 50 years ago. Most people listening probably weren't even born then. Even most people working at the station, but does that mean we don't talk about it? The news about Mandela will be around until at least his funeral, so those dissenters get over it. At least you could say we won't be talking about Christmas as much, from Marion in Hemel. And one more from Dave in Sunderland. What you have here is a prime example of the ignorant and sycophantic nature of society today. Nelson Mandela was a terrorist, ultimately responsible for the death of innocents. However, it's how he managed to find a peaceful solution, keeping the same principles throughout, that shows how great a man he was. This is something extremists today could take a strong example from. Dave, thank you very much indeed. We're asking as well, are there any more heroes left? Tim's from Biggleswade. Morning, Tim.
Morning.
Tim, what would you like to say?
Johnny Johnson from 617 Squadron, the Downbusters.
Oh, is he still around?
I think so.
Oh, blimey, he must be pushing it a bit.
Yeah, I think he's still around.
So you'd class him as a hero. There aren't any promising prospects, are there, for potential heroes in people around at the moment, though, are there?
Not really.
Tim, thank you very much indeed. Catherine, what you've got a suggestion, have you?
Yes, I do. Malala Yousafzai.
Oh, she's the young lady that was she Pakistani? Was she?
Yes, she was shot by the terrorists, extremists, for her defence of female education.
She liked reading books and stuff, and she was a girl.
And she's come back from near death, having had the operation over here, and she's still speaking out. That's extreme bravery, and she's so young.
We'll have her, definitely. That counts.
I think there needs to be a little element of sticking your neck out, taking a risk.
We had someone
almost recklessness.
We had someone who said members of the fire service.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People who go that extra yard.
Well, it is. I do find it disappointing that the kids' heroes, grown-ups' heroes as well, are David Beckham and Michael Owen,
Katie Price
and Joey Essex.
My daughter's learning about real heroes at school.
Yeah.
Grace Darling. Do
Oh,
you
very
remember the story of Grace Darling?
Go on.
Well, she drew a picture for me last night. My daughter did. It was Grace Darling, the lightkeeper's housekeeper's daughter, who saw the shipwreck and went out in the rowboat and saved 9 people.
There you go. You see, that's proper heroes. Can we get some? Well, let's ask a young person. Let's ask Kelly Betts again. I'm hovering over all faders and well, no, I don't have a dump button here. I may live to regret this. You're a young person, Kelly. Who are your heroes? Is it people like Lady Gaga and Joey Essex?
Yes, both I look up to hugely. They've done so much for our education, and they've really helped. No, it's not them.
Who have you got any?
Idiot.
Sorry.
Hi.
Am I your hero? Is that what you just
You're
said?
my hero.
That's all we needed to know. You see, thank you very much. I know you're slightly more intelligent than the average youngster. Youngster. It's because you keep calling us mum and dad. That's where that's from. 08459 455 555. Listen, you're going to be hearing about Nelson Mandela a lot for the rest of the day, a lot for the rest of the weekend. Probably, you're right, until his funeral. Some of you are already tired of it and switched off, and that's absolutely fine. That is well within your right. But those of you who are saying it's not a local story, I think you're wrong, because it is a local story. And what we're doing, and some of you have been clever enough to pick up on this, what we're doing is we are making it local. We are talking to local people who met him, who've been affected by him, who've been touched by him, steady. So it is a local story. And I do hope you think that we are making it... We are looking at the local element. Because, listen, I'm a big fan of local radio. That's why I work here. You see... and I'm keen to keep this as local as possible. 08459 455 555. Steve the Milky. Morning, Steve.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Stephen. What would you like to say?
I think you should stop going about Nelson Mandela's more important things. Like, there's a puddle in the middle of the road.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Is there... What road is... Stephen, hang on a second. What road is this, Steve?
I don't know. Don't know. I've gone past it now. I've got away from it quickly.
Kelly Betts, listen, this is... we need to...
I'm just going to ring the police about this, if that's all right.
Yeah, I think you should, and we'll investigate this.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelly. We're on. Steve, I appreciate you flagging that up. We are on it, and we listen. I can understand why people might be news saturation of any story can be a little bit tedious. Now, I think we've broken up this show as much as we can do with other news stories, with talking to Paul about what's going on in Barnfield and other bits and pieces like that. I also think, Steve, that we've given people who aren't so keen to hear about Nelson Mandela a fair crack of the whip. It's not been a complete whitewash, if you'll pardon the phrase, in terms of who's coming on. We're allowing a nice mix, I think. Hello, Steve? Oh, Steve's gone. Who's that breathing? Is that Shirley?
Yes, probably.
Hello, Shirley. I thought I was talking to Steve. Steve had disappeared and transformed into a beautiful woman called Shirley. Shirley, what can I do for you? What have you got?
Well, this woman that said about the floods. Now,
yes.
My daughter lives in Yarmouth.
Okay.
And she was sort of texting me right throughout the day on the situation there,
yes.
Worried about the surges and everything.
Yeah.
And last night she had the police knocking on the door saying either she'd got to evacuate or she'd got to get sandbags.
Oh, dear.
So sort of about 9 o'clock she was off filling up 12 sandbags.
Where do you get sandbags at that time of night?
There was apparently somewhere down near Sainsbury's at Yarmouth, so there was some big piles of sand where they could go and fill up their sandbags.
Okay.
So she was struggling. She filled up 12 to put 6 at the front door and 6 at the back to cover up the air bricks. And she was sort of texting me throughout the night with an update on everything, but they were okay.
How is she? How did it go last night for her?
Yeah, she was okay. They didn't get floods. I mean, they were worried about the late surge at about 10:30 last night. But she's texted me this morning at 5 o'clock to say they're okay. They didn't get any floods.
Fantastic. There's another high tide coming, but it probably won't be as bad as that one.
There's 2 today apparently.
Right. Oh,
but I did hear on last night's radio that Hemsby Lifeboat Station fell into the sea.
Oh, a whole lifeboat station?
Apparently so. They gave out because it all goes over to a different channel in the evening, doesn't it?
Yes.
The radio.
Yes.
And I was in bed listening to it last night, and they did say that they'd just heard that Hemsby Lifeboat Station had fallen into the sea.
Oh, my word.
That's terrible, isn't it?
It is terrible, and it does make you think the power of nature. There's not a lot we can do. If Mother Nature wants to have a pop, we can't really do a lot, can we?
We can't, no. I mean, a lot of people were evacuated. And her son's school, he got sent home early because they were worried about the surge and everything. So,
oh, Shirley, you've just reminded me. Straight after this, I'm dashing off to my son's school. He's 3 and he'll be 4 in January.
Yeah.
It's their Christmas show this morning.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, and he's a shepherd. We saw him in his shepherd's costume. He's got the opening line to the show. He starts off by going, "Welcome to our story. It happened a long time ago." That's my boy doing that.
That's, do you know, that's wonderful, because when my middle daughter, when she was in nursery, she played Mary.
Oh, did she? Oh.
In the nativity, and it's so wonderful
Isn't it just?
to see the little children
Magic.
doing the nativity. I absolutely love it.
Very, very magical. Shirley, thank you very much.
Well for
Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure it will. Whatever happens, we'll be very, very proud of him, and I'm glad things are all right for your daughter. Steve the Milky, what happened, mate?
Hello, Iain. Where'd you go?
You hung up.
It's the reception is not good. Is that Kevin Bacon? Tell him to stop pulling that shed around and get these women.
Is it that puddle? Is the situation that bad near that puddle, Steve, that it's affecting the phone lines? Yeah, Steve, we're losing you, Steve. Steve?
Oh
no, he's gone. I'm sorry about that.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Seagrave High Street is closed in both directions around Clydesdale Road after an accident. Thanks to Laura for phoning that one in. In Bletchley, Standing Way heading east is slow at Watling Street. And in Watford, Pinner Road also looking heavy around Bushy Arches. The M25 anti-clockwise, though, is eased now between 17 for Maple Cross and 16 for the M40. The M40, though, northbound still looking a little heavy from the Denham roundabout to the M25. Public transport, First Capital Connect have a reduced service on the Hertford Loop up until 10 o'clock this morning. Tickets are being accepted on Greater Anglia and London Underground. I'm Alice Glossop, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Alice. More from Alice before 9 o'clock. Right now it's 8:46. It's Friday, the 6th of December. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. Tributes are being paid to Nelson Mandela, who died last night. Former teachers for the Bedfordshire-based Barnfield Federation reveal how pupils were spoon-fed answers to coursework. And in cricket, at close of play on the second day of the second test in Adelaide, England were on 35 for 1 in reply to Australia's 570 for 9. Last 15 minutes of the show, why don't you give me a call? Your stories about Nelson Mandela, or maybe you do think we're banging on about it a little bit too much. Do let me know either way. 08459 455 555. Let's see if we can get Justin Dealey on as well. It'd be nice to talk to him about that picture of him dressed up as Elvis. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Let's get the weather first. Here's Elizabeth.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's a lovely bright start to the day across parts of Buckinghamshire, eastern areas of Bedfordshire too, slightly cloudier over Hertfordshire this morning. There will be some good spells of brightness and sunshine developing just about everywhere, I think, today. It's feeling rather chilly and temperatures won't really get much past 5 or even 6 degrees, 43 in Fahrenheit. So a cold day for us, mostly dry, just the risk of perhaps a few showers running down on that northwesterly wind. The wind a lot lighter than it was yesterday. Overnight tonight, it's going to cloud over. We'll see temperatures down to 2 or 3 degrees, I think. We might just get some clear spells. In the clear spells, rural spots may just see a touch of frost, otherwise largely frost-free overnight tonight, leading to a milder weekend. We've got some milder air coming up. So Saturday's temperatures up to 8 or 9 degrees. Similar on Sunday. A bit more in the way of brightness, though, on Saturday, I think. Sunday, a cloudier day, but dry all weekend and staying settled into next week. That's the forecast.
Roberto Perrone.
We are really good at work for 1 hour. Tell you what, if my turkey's not a big fat one for Christmas, I'm going to be very disappointed. If you've got small children or you're a small person, i.e. dwarf, dressed as a rabbit going to a fancy dress party, you are perfectly safe.
Roberto Perrone.
Birdwatchers in Buckinghamshire are hoping that a pair of falcons will breed there over winter. And we can all say, gentlemen, God bless Leighton Buzzard and that Wonderbra. What an amazing invention.
Weekdays from 3.
Good afternoon. This is BBC Three Counties Radio. I'm Roberto Perrone.
I'm looking at a really disturbing photograph. Paul Scoyne sent me this. It's not one of the usual disturbing ones he sends, and boy, oh boy, I must remember to complain to management about that. But he sent me this picture. It's titled Jelvis. And it really, I mean, it's just terrifying. You'd want to use this to scare away burglars. It's... Well, Justin, why don't you describe what it is I'm looking at?
Well, something very sexy.
It's you...
Yes.
Wearing an Elvis jumpsuit.
Yes.
Elvis sunglasses.
Yes.
You're on stage.
Yes.
And it looks like you're singing.
Well, you know, all the things you just described there would be me being Elvis Presley at a charity night. A couple of things here for you, OK? It was a charity evening a few years ago for the BBC, so I was raising money for a very, very good cause. Secondly...
Well, hang on a sec. All right, well done, yeah, but that's still a crime against nature you're committing there.
No, not at all, not at all. What I would say was that Look East were there that evening, and they recorded it to be used on their news bulletin the following night, and they went round people afterwards and said, how was your night? And they said, it was fantastic, some great songs. Who was your favourite? And all the people on there, and I can prove it to you, name me as their favourite.
Hang on, is there video footage of you doing this?
Absolutely, of course there is.
Oh, mate.
What?
Oh, please, let me...
Look,
where can I find this?
Look, I'll find it for you. I could have been a singer, OK? I could have been a singer, but...
I've heard you singing when we're getting ready to go to you and we're playing a record. I've heard you singing.
That's me messing around, but I could have had a career as a singer, but I said, no, do you know what? I'm not going to go down that route because I prefer to play the songs.
Justin Dealey, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, 9 till 12.
9 till 12, 3 hours of great songs and great memories. The UK and American charts from this weekend in 1966. And I've been to the LP Cafe in Watford. Hear what happened tomorrow from 9.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Justin. We will hunt down that... we haven't got time, I'm afraid, if we want to play this audio. We haven't got time. So, we've been talking about Nelson Mandela this morning. Of course, passed away last night. Now, listen, we had a call earlier on in the show from Lucy, who's in Dunstable. If anyone wonders why we're covering Nelson Mandela so much, have a listen to this. Call Lucy's in Dunstable. Morning, Lucy.
Good morning, Ian. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. I believe you have a personal connection with Nelson Mandela. What was that?
Not really personal, but I'm South African.
I picked that up from the accent.
Exactly.
Yes.
Stephen, what was he saying about the word terrorist?
Well, yes, we had the caller at the top of the hour said that he thought it was odd that we were celebrating who he called a terrorist.
If you would ask me, being a South African, growing up without a granddad who's sitting in Robben Island with Nelson Mandela, it was a stress. Having uncles who were out of the country in exile, it was stressful. So we as South Africans, we have suffered in silence when the whole world was watching. The Boers killing people. What is he talking about? Because that was Margaret Thatcher. Remember saying the terrorist Nelson Mandela. And yes, she apologized years later, but it didn't make difference to some of us. It didn't, Ian. Today, the sun of Africa has fallen. And unfortunately, none of the people are following his footsteps.
There's a couple of things you mentioned there, Lucy. Let's just go back quickly if we can. So your grandfather was in prison on Robben Island with Nelson Mandela?
Yes, and few other more 170-something people who were there. He's one of the heroes who's still alive. He's still alive. He's 97 years of age.
And how long was your granddad on Robben Island for?
He was there in 1969 until 1994.
Wow. What was it like when he came out?
It was beautiful. It was beautiful, Ian. South Africa, I remember the day they mentioned that they are coming out. We heard it from the radio in the morning coming from school. No, in the morning going to school. We never went to school that day. We were celebrating because of that evening. It was a party in South Africa. We couldn't believe it. our parents couldn't believe they will see the day, especially people who died in Alexander, the women who died for their rights, people who died asking to vote for South Africa. But there was nothing. The whole world was watching. The whole world was saying we were terrorists. But only few men stood and put everything down for the sake of their country. And how many people do that? Without a war. We didn't have guns. We had a stone and a shield. And that's all our uncles and our brothers knew how to defend a bullet. He needs to go back and look at 1976. He needs to go back and read history or look at history and see how many people have suffered through the apartheid regime.
How old were you, Lucy, when your grandfather was released?
I was born in 1976. My mathematics is killing me.
So 93, so hang on, you was...
1976,
yep.
And it was 1990 when he... 1990.
So you're about 14?
Yeah, I was already 14.
And what was it like? Obviously, you'd never met him. What was it like the first time you met your grandfather?
It was so good. It was so good, Ian. We were not allowed to go on the other side. My grandmother went with my mom. And when they came back with him from town, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. We were all crying. The whole village was crying. Everybody was crying because of they knew him. They knew him. And they knew what he stood for. And for us, he was a stranger. But to know that he's one of the people who has done this, the Sisulus, we don't live far away from each other, the Sisulus, all of the heroes. It was a village. Even if you go now in the streets of Soweto, you will see all those houses. They are called museum houses because we don't live far from each other. The men knew what they were talking about. Not this idiot who's driving on the motorway this morning and saying he doesn't know what we're going through.
The other thing you mentioned that was interesting, you said that there was no one in South Africa who was of the same calibre to carry on what Nelson Mandela had achieved. Do you think South Africa is going to be in trouble?
Politically, I think we are in trouble, politically. And probably I'm talking of me being here for more than 15 years. But to be honest with you, looking at it back home, I would have loved things to be changed so much. When I go home all the time, it's like thinking that if they could change this, making the poor be better, helping those who can, I think somehow making it an equal Africa, South Africa that we wanted it to be. I would think personally things haven't changed that much.
And Lucy, I really appreciate your call this morning. Thank you very much. It's very easy for me, a white middle-class person in Britain who's had it pretty easy to make judgments and things like that. But hearing from a black South African who has a personal involvement is fascinating. Well, just try and sum up for those listeners like me who might be struggling to understand how important Nelson Mandela was. What did he mean to you?
For us, he meant everything. He meant he was the father of the nation. He was there to tell us to say, to those who were fighting in 1976 in the struggle of the students when they didn't want to do Afrikaans anymore. He was the reason to the people to say, we struggle in prayer. We struggle without killing no one. We struggle in what we stand for. The truth, one day it will be set free. And that day, I could see it when Jesse Jackson was there saying, we are free today because of few words. Do not fight back. Do not fight back. And say, South Africa has come to a change. We did come to a free country. We did go to those shops where were written, in 1980-something, shops still written blacks only, whites only. Buses were still written blacks only, buses whites only. We became free. We became free. Yes, some of us had a privilege of a better education, but for those who had nothing, we felt for them. We felt the same situation which we're in. So Mandela today, we are celebrating the life of a hero. We are celebrating his life because if God didn't bring that man into earth, South Africa was going to be under somebody else. Probably the apartheid regime was going to go somewhere. And many others who fought today I'm proud to say, Ian, Viva Nelson Mandela, Viva, and may your soul rest in peace.
Well, there you go. That was a call we received earlier on in the show. If anyone's questioning why we're talking about Nelson Mandela so much, then I think the passion in Lucy's phone call explains it all. Thank you very much for all of your comments today. We enjoy all of them, good and bad. They're all considered and filed and cleaned and then burnt, but we do appreciate them. Let's get the travel.
Travel news for beds, cards and bugs.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
In Lee Gravely High Street is closed in both directions around Clydesdale Road. In Harpenden, the speed sensors are showing that things are slow in both directions on the High Street near the station. In Bletchley, Standing Way heading east, also slow at Watling Street. In Watford, things are heavy around Bushy Arches on Pinner Road and also Lower High Road. Public transport, First Capital Connect have a reduced service on the Hertford Loop line up until 10 a.m. today. Tickets are being accepted on Greater Anglia and the London Underground, though. I'm Alice Glossop, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Alice, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who took part in the show. Don't forget, if you want to contact me over the weekend, you can email me. Heaven knows why you'd want to do that, but that's certainly an option available to you. Iain.Lee, I-A-I-N, I spell my name correctly, Iain.Lee at bbc.co.uk. There'll be a new podcast released later on today, maybe about midday-ish, something like that. It goes onto the BBC Three Counties website first, then iTunes maybe later tonight or tomorrow. JBS is up next from me until Monday morning at 6. Ta-ta.
Local and vocal across beds, hearts and bucks.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Ian. Good morning, welcome to the JBS show. I'm Jonathan Vernon-Smith. It's Friday, it's 9 o'clock. And on today's Big Phone In, did Nelson Mandela mean anything to you? If you're just waking up this morning.